Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Slappin Kpop podcast. I am Kayla, and today I am here with Sammi.
Hello.
And Maria.
Hola.
And today we are starting a very fun, very special project that will be continuing through August of this year. We had teased
that
it.
Might make us lose our minds.
It is already kind of making us lose our minds, but we had teased it back in our reacting to K-pop unpopular opinions too, where we were like, hey, if anyone out there wants like an iceberg of K-pop scandals, let us know and we'll do that. And we had immediately decided after we finished recording that we were going to do it anyway, regardless. But we did get a comment saying it would be cool, so that gave us a legitimate excuse. So now we're here. So I introduced to you the Kpop Scandal iceberg. Today will be only tier 1 of the iceberg. We will be doing 8 tiers of this iceberg, and one episode over the next 8 months. So one episode will come out every month until August. Essentially, what we decided with the iceberg is they're gonna go down in like the less well known the scandal is, the farther down it is on the iceberg.
Also 18 disclaimers.
Multiple disclaimers.
First off, the time frame of this scandal iceberg is only up until the end of 2021.
Yes.
No scandals of this year will ever be covered because, dear God, that's impossible.
We don't feel
omnipotent,
like
so I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, so things have already happened this year that could have been on
that
here.
are not here.
We're not going to put them here. We will make an update to the scandals next year.
We're working on a separate project for the 2022 things that's also making me lose my mind.
Yes.
Working on it.
Also, a couple disclaimers as to what will be on the iceberg. Number 1, we decided anything that involves the death of a celebrity is not a scandal. So nothing,
no, it is
none
not.
of those will be anywhere on the iceberg. Number 2, this is not an extensive list of K-pop scandals. There are a lot of scandals. We can't cover every single one here.
We tried to go with the most notable scandals.
Yes.
We tried to go with the scandals that people have heard of and possibly want explained or possibly don't understand fully, because there's things on here that I was like learning about.
And then we confused greatly while
we confused with
researching
each other.
this. Exactly.
Also,
yeah.
You will see, especially with the upper tiers, that we have broad spectrums
Super
of
broad
scandals. For example, our first one is, racism. We're not going to cover every instance of racism in K-pop. What we are going to cover are broad examples. Obviously, they are not going to be every example, but just that these are scandals and they exist.
Yes,
also, theoretically, a lot of these are not actually scandals. A lot of these are bullshit. We are aware they are bullshit, but if they are a bullshit K-pop scandal, still counts as a scandal.
Correct. So yeah, some of these are very much more serious than others. Some of these are kind of like a joke, and some of these are like very serious repercussions are happening for them. So wide range of stuff being covered here. The last one I want to say is that we did not write this scandal iceberg in mind for people who don't care about K-pop and don't know about K-pop, because I know a lot of videos of this type are written that way. And we obviously, all three of us, are very into K-pop, and we kind of went into this writing the script and everything knowing that the people, or kind of thinking that the people listening would also know about K-pop. So all of this, like, garbage stuff that people always bring up when they talk about, the dark side of K-pop, like, slave contracts, plastic surgery, like, the beauty standards, all of that. Like,
a lot of these will be mentioned as aspects of other scandals, but they will not
like
be the main scandal talked about.
But also a lot of those
topics
covered
too. Enough.
Yeah, a lot of those topics that people tend to bring up are just also commonly associated with potentially issues with Korean society in general. So it's not just limited to just K-pop,
while that can technically be considered a K-pop scandal, it is such a broad topic that could more easily be covered as an intro to K-pop situation.
Yeah,
this is not an intro to K-pop course. This is for people who already have a basis in K-pop and also have sort of a basis in the
news.
If you are a baby K-pop fan, maybe this will help you a little bit, but this is not going to be your crash course into everything about Korea. You kind of need at least a basis understanding of, like, how groups are formed, how, like, the basics you gotta know.
Yeah.
And maybe some other things.
Like a level 2 course.
And maybe some other things too, like,
it's not
how, maybe not too in-depth, but a general observation of how maybe certain scandals are viewed by, say, the Korean public and to why
yeah.
they react to them. While, say, for example, this will be a topic that will be mentioned too, but drug scandals. Certain types of drugs that are taken by celebrities are seen as more intense in Korea than, say, in other countries.
And lastly, we are also coming at this from the international fan perspective. Korea obviously has a very different reaction to these scandals. We going to mention them. That is not, if you want a Korean's perspective on these scandals, we three people here who none of us are Korean,
been to South Korea,
who have never been to South
Korea,
Korea,
who can't speak Korean at all, period.
And none of us are Korean.
No.
In case you were not aware of that, none of us are Korean.
So we can't provide that for you.
We cannot
here.
provide that context.
Yeah.
But all of these scandals have been very well documented. Go on and do your own research. That is all I can say is please do your own research if any of this seems to be of interest to you.
And I would say too,
on that note,
as like one more thing too before we go off into it, just like, we're gonna get into some, probably as it goes on, there's gonna be some dark topics that we'll talk about and some like pretty messed up stuff. So
I mean, there's dark topics in
True,
one.
but I would say for certain people, especially if there's, I don't know, could be a young kid around listening to this, but like, I would say listeners' discretion is advised probably for certain topics.
Again,
but
all the
just
tiers are on screen now.
Yes.
If anything here you think is possibly triggering or you would not like to listen to, either skip it or possibly this isn't the video for you. I'm sorry.
Right, because this is, at the end of the day, this is like a scandal iceberg, so the topics generally that are going to be in each episode can get pretty dark, so that's a general warning for every single episode we're going to be doing in this series.
And again, I don't think any of us want to jeopardize your mental health. That's always the most important.
It's not
so if you don't think that
you
can, if you don't think that that's going to be something that brings you any kind of enjoyment, that's what this podcast is for. It's for enjoyment. If you don't want to be here, please go ahead. Yeah. No hard feelings.
Oh, yeah.
Take care of yourself.
We will not be
first,
upset
obviously.
if you just decide to skip this series because of that.
On that note, let's begin with the very easy topic of racism in the K-pop industry.
Oh boy, the racism.
So K-pop has a very long history of racism. Both like racism and xenophobia against like people within the industry, and a lot of racism against, specifically, there's a lot of racism against everyone. Literally everyone.
It is kind of an aspect of K-pop that has always been there and doesn't seem to be going away.
Going anywhere.
It has evolved, I think, since like when K-pop has started, but it's just kind of there in different.
Better.
It's gotten better, but it's just there in different forms now. I think.
And to be honest, I'm not surprised that it exists, and it's not like, considering that this is a very like the term is like, most of 98 of like the Korean citizens, the type of people that live in Korea, them in Japan in particular, like the overwhelming majority of the population, almost close to 100%, is ethnically Korean or Japanese.
Yeah.
So it's this is kind of not really surprising, unfortunately, because it's kind of like,
But the issue at times with K-pop, especially when it becomes a global market, which it is trying to be, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, you can't.
That's, I think, the main issue with K-pop, and a lot of these K-pop racism scandals go down to, you can't have it both ways. You cannot have a music market that caters greatly and takes heavy influence from other cultures, especially, I'm going to say it, Black culture, but also have artists that blatantly don't know the basis of where any of this comes from and blatantly disrespect it. Now, there is also a thing we have here for cultural appropriation, especially with a lot of K-pop hairstyles are deemed not great. I'm looking at the dreads and the braids at times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole other.
That's
a whole
problem.
Debate where some people go in between of like whether it is or whether people are pop blocking. It's a mess. It's a mess.
Point to make. None of us are Black.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I speak to cultural appropriation in that way? Also, no. That is for, again, there's a lot of people, a lot of great K-pop creators who've talked about that. Go look to them, especially for the cultural appropriation debate. We just want to mention that there.
It definitely exists, and it's definitely still an ongoing conversation among like a lot of the international K-pop community on whether or not it's okay or not, and I don't think that there is just a blatantly correct answer for it.
Yeah, it's a complicated issue, especially with the K hip hop scene. I think, based from what I have perceived, I think a lot of like artists that have done like braids or dreads and like what is considered to be a quote unquote black hairstyle, I feel like a lot of it's doing it because I think a lot of it's based on what they've seen, like emulated in like rappers.
Again,
from the
you're
West,
taking
so then
inspiration
they're kind of, like,
from Western
so they think
rappers.
I think it's part of it. Also, is like, oh, you're not a legit rapper until you look the part too. I think in some weird twisted way. I think that's part of the reason.
I also
why.
think that there's a part of it that is just it's unfortunate to say it, but it is also ignorance.
Yeah, a lot of it's
It's very
ignorance.
easy to look at it and take it, and without much thought. And again, not saying it's right to do this, but I feel like a lot of, because we're going to get into more specific examples of K-pop racism, and I do find that a lot of them seem to come more from, with exceptions, especially for the ones that are American, those are a completely different topic, but especially for the Korean ones, a lot of it comes from ignorance of the fact that you have heard something, you repeat it, but you didn't care to educate yourself about the topic, or no one has educated you. Again, I do not think that gives you a pass to do hateful things.
No, yeah, it doesn't.
But it is an explanation behind what is being done. Is it a good thing? No, not saying that. But it's an explanation. For example, we have a couple examples here that we can talk about.
Yep.
Mamamoo did a cover, and this is a problem that has been happening with a lot of, not saying Mamamoo is the only people that have done this. There have been countless examples of other people, but the most notable one in recent years has been Mamamoo, who did an Uptown Funk cover wearing blackface. Now, blackface has been a contentious topic for years now.
That's also still a big problem in conversation in like Korean variety shows as well.
And oftentimes it's not the idols doing it, it is comedians doing it.
Yeah,
so it
that's
doesn't
where
get that much of
mostly
international attention.
Yep.
Yeah. They don't get as much international attention because they are not international figures. When idols do it, obviously it is more of a problem. And this has been a thing that's been going on for years in Korea. So it's not a good look.
It's not, and I think this is like where it's like a lot of the stuff and a lot of the racism stuff can happen because of ignorance. I think that for Mamamoo, I don't think they had any bad intentions with it, but I do think it was like they just really had no idea how that would be viewed in like the international audience and how like
I think the thought process was they probably wanted to quote unquote look the part, aka look similar to Bruno Mars. Which
I'm pretty sure that's what they said in their apology too, that they just wanted to look more like that, and they didn't realize the repercussions and sort of like the sort
and then again,
how problematic it could have been.
Again, it also then boils down to the same thing that always happens of K-pop being you can't have it both ways.
You can't.
You cannot be an international music market while being internationally problematic.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
While we also, there have just been countless instances of the N-word being said.
You can even go back to 90s K-pop. SM Entertainment.
I want to talk about, because this has been something, because in our podcast we've even been scared of this, because I remember when
oh my god, the cover
Golden
of
Child
on Road to Kingdom.
So one of our first series we did on this channel was reviewing all the episodes of Road to Kingdom. And on that show, Golden Child was on, and they were covering
T.O.P. by Shinhwa.
T.O.P. by Shinhwa.
Which is Shinhwa's breakout
and in that song, Shinhwa says the N-word.
Eric,
not blatantly.
The N-word.
Specifically, Eric, who grew up in the States, says the N-word.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know why on earth he thought that was
I don't know why. And this was in the 90s.
And this isn't the only SM song, too, that has an N-word. And there's an HOT song
but there
that has an N-word.
Especially
so SM,
in the
what the
early 90s, especially in the 90s, K-pop songs did used to use that word. Now they've knowingly now do not use
Thank God.
I would hope that all of the music,
reasons.
I would hope that all the music producers now know that that's not a thing.
That's not a word you can use?
Yeah.
Yes. So, and we were scared of like, oh my god, is Golden Child going to say the N-word on television?
Mm-hmm.
They did not.
They did not. That entire part of the song was just cut out, so it was fine.
But it could have
happened, and I was really concerned about it.
We had. You can go back to that episode. I think it was like episode 3 or 4 of that series.
Oh, I remember being terrified of that happening. I was like, oh my god.
We prayed. We were praying it didn't happen.
Impressed,
But especially recently, more of the issue with that is that, especially in second and third gen era, there would be instances of them saying it, not in their music, but just saying it. We have example here of Bam Bam from GOT7, where they were on tour in America and they were at Mark's family's home and they were hanging out in Mark's pool with his family and his American friends. Mind you, Mark
comes from a very rich family.
He comes from a very rich family, and he has a lot of all the friends in that pool. There was not a single black person in that pool. Not that there being a black person there would have made it better. It wouldn't have.
No.
But there was not. There was no one present that. And he said it in the pool. It was actually a really candid video. It was something we were never supposed to see. This was not a JYP thing that they put out. I think it was Mark's friends that put it out.
Because Mark's friends
Mark
straight
has terrible
up
friends.
tricked Bam Bam into saying it too, like knowing it was bad. And probably them knowing that Bam Bam didn't know that it was bad. They like tricked
but also
him into
possibly
saying
that
it.
but also possibly him knowing that it was bad, but doing it in a crowd of people he thought he was comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
Who's to
Probably
say what
so
the
Mark's
context
Because
was
after
for
this
saying
point,
it?
Bam Bam has also
friends.
admitted to saying it multiple times in the past as well.
Yeah. I do think that there is for that is sort of a thing that a bunch of people have had to apologize for. RM has had to apologize for it.
Oh, yeah.
I think a bunch of rappers have had to apologize
In
for
recent
it.
days, a lot of idols have been getting in trouble for lip syncing it in lyrics to songs that they hear, because they obviously play Western music like pretty often.
And of
they listen
course,
to it,
if you listen to like hip hop or R&B,
They're
and
gonna
it's
say
a
it,
person who's
so they'll-
black, someone's gonna say it. They're thinking, "Oh, it's a song lyric." I think
And
it's one of those like
oftentimes
the brain tricks you kind of
yeah.
feel, and like your brain is
it's
like
one
it's
of
the song
those where
lyric.
it's also like, yeah, probably on the safe side, don't sing along to it.
Yeah.
But also, there's a lot of them, especially the ones that do speak English, who very blatantly make it a point to not say it. They make it a very good point, especially now. I think that they are getting to a point where they are very aware of that word. And as time goes on, I don't know if the scandals almost get less excusable. Because
I
now,
think so,
you
because
should
K-pop
know.
is so international now, and so
Yeah.
many of these groups, I think, are specifically catering to an international audience, that I feel like, especially like nowadays, it should be like, we should know better than that.
Because I know that recently, I think it was one of the Espa. Was it Giselle Espa problem?
It was one of them. I think it might have been.
It was one of the
one of
Espa.
them.
I believe it was Giselle.
really?
Yeah.
I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I will put a correction. But yeah, and and then there's always the debate of did they say it? And
the other thing too is some of these really good English speakers also probably might have ended up going not to an international school in like the States or the UK. It might have been an international school in another country. So
the
some
thing
of them
is,
might
I
not
do
even
feel
know
like
much.
class number 1 of K-pop should be, hey, we shouldn't have this problem anymore. Just don't say it.
Yeah.
That should be class
Oh,
number
yeah.
1 if you're K-pop
Just don't
training.
do it.
Before you
Don't
learn how
fucking
to
do it.
It's like, here's
Don't
what
do it.
Western fans get angry over. Don't do any of those.
And like really, you can sort of
Honestly.
between the dreads, and again, not saying that cultural appropriation's okay, but like there's a debate there with that word. Just don't say it. You're gonna be wrong. It's going to be not the correct place to say it. Don't say it. The other thing is oftentimes we have this other example here of just more to the not American, but raised in the West, who should probably know better.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2018, Wendy from Red Velvet was on a variety show and did a racist stereotypical impression of a black woman. Now, I do know there is debate, but then again, there's always debate because people will always come out to defend their faves. So, I don't know.
Yeah, that one, it's like a lot of this stuff is like, there's still just even ongoing debates about it on whether or not people think it's okay or not. And again, it's like really not the place of like any of the three of us to say that it is or isn't either.
Again, we are just telling you what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I also very much ask, and I know I'm 20 minutes in, but please, let's all be civil in the comments if anybody wants to comment.
Yes.
We will delete you if you are vehemently hatred. If you have hatred
We'll probably
toward
just
any
ban
group
you.
of people.
We'll probably
or
just ban
we'll
you from the channel and we'll be done with it. So
please don't be active. Have your opinion. Have your thoughts. do not be hateful to people. Insult me all you want, I don't care. But do not insult an entire race, religion, sexual orientation. Just don't insult other people. Let's be kind.
Please.
Let's be good people, okay?
Yes. One aspect of the racism that is more sort of like instead of it being a Western problem, this is very much a more Korean specific problem, is colorism. And that's because there is essentially a light-skinned beauty standard in South Korea and in a lot of other Asian countries. And so essentially a lot of idols who have darker skin get made fun of on variety shows for it.
By their members.
By their own members.
Other members.
This is by, like, people who they're friends with, and, like...
These are their roommates,
these are their friends,
members,
and we just make jokes out of it.
And we're joking. This especially used to be a much bigger problem in second-gen K-pop.
Yeah.
We have two of the main examples here, but this happened to most of the dark... If you can think of a group that had one darker-skinned... one darker, quote-unquote darker-skinned member, or someone who was slightly more tan than the other ones, then they were probably had received those comments either from presenters, interviewers, and probably from their own members.
Oh, yes.
The two main examples we have here are N from VIX and Kai from EXO, who are, I think, the two most famous people who are ridiculed mercilessly.
The VIX with N is just horrible. Like I watched a lot of like VIX variety stuff, and it is just like a constant there with all of them.
It's like it's like a really bad joke that you keep repeating constantly when it's just like it's not funny.
But that everyone keeps laughing at. Yeah. So you wonder oftentimes, because we all three of us sort of got into K-pop really, and it was third gen, but I really liked a lot of second gen groups, so I would go and watch a lot of their stuff, and it was just that kind of comedy that I was just very uncomfortable with. Even when I was watching it, that I'm like, is this a joke that's funny to a Korean audience? And it does seem like it was, because it kept happening.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a weird form of like physical comedy almost, by mockery.
In a way, but it's more like they just keep describing. There was this one specific instance where they were talking about a music video, and VIX, and they were talking about having to always change the lighting when N was there, and it's just that constant. It's the one thing you can keep making fun of, and it's just very off-putting.
I have a very vivid memory of an episode of Weekly Idol where they were doing like a weird like Pictionary game, and one of the things that Leo had to draw was N, and so he literally just drew a black circle on a stick, and they apparently got that was N like immediately, because that's just the joke that is there always.
And in my personal opinion, N and Kai are not that tan. They're tan.
Not particularly.
I don't think so.
Again, when you stand them in a line comparing them to the rest of the members of their group, they do look significantantly darker.
Yeah,
but also they're not that dark.
But they're not
especially with recent. Not really, but it's just.
I think it's just I guess it's because of like a comparison to like everybody else who's in the group, and I guess it's just a thing that stood out enough about them that is just kind of,
and that's what they just sort of made fun of.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't have anything else to
and
be
the things
funny
with Kai too
is that
funny. Kai, like, obviously EXO is like a second gen group. The stuff with Kai happened in Super M too. Like, we're still making fun of him for that in recent days.
Yeah, it kept I think it's a joke that's just never gonna die. I like that, especially recently we sort of embraced the like darker skinned idols, like with like your Hwasas and like with all of this, and people do love like the unedited photos. That's great. Wonderful. Love embracing all our natural beauty. But this stuff was a lot, and it's still kind of happening, much less now, but it's still something that gets brought up, especially in like Korean interviews.
Yeah.
That are made for the international market.
And that is, I think, very much like a product of the beauty standards being like very light, like pale skin as like the ideal. And that is like, even people saying that, like, bringing up the opposite, where like people have like pale skin automatically seem to be like more desirable and prettier. That also happens a lot recently in a lot of shows. Like, I just watched Singles Inferno, and it was happening there. So that is like a really a society thing as well.
It's definitely not just tied to Korea though. It's definitely like I get the vibe.
It's like an Asian beauty standard generally. Yeah.
I think a lot of it ties into like the whole kind of ties in with classism in a way of like you had paler skin, which
it's
meant
entirely
you were wealthy.
classist belief because
again,
darker skin, you were working in the sun longer. If you were pale skin, you didn't have to work, so you are rich. That's kind of thing.
I think it's like that weirder lore that still ties in with
I do think that
beauty.
it is very good that we are sort of moving away from that. I do think that we have made great improvements in this type of scandal where I don't think we are seeing as much of these racism scandals or colorism or any of this happening as often. I do think they are just changing. I do think that it is just evolving. It'll never go away. I hope it does, but I don't.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna go away entirely ever. But I do think it's definitely has been better in recent years for sure.
And the last thing before we move on to our other topic is I just want to mention the cultural appropriation of other cultures. I know especially with like some like Indian culture and like Hindu culture, there have been scandals about that.
That happens a lot.
Yeah, I think there was like a Giotto performance I remember at like an award show, and it was something about I think either the music or the background that looked like a mosque or something.
I have even
Giotto has a lot of problems with that.
Yeah,
I feel like it's I think the Cube's on some weird trend where they try to fit that as like their aesthetic, and it's like
that is also not okay. Yeah. I just think that we are all even less equipped to talk about that type of cultural appropriation than the type of cultural appropriation we're talking about. I wanted to mention it, but there are much better people, much more qualified people to talk about that with more depth and tact than us. So please go find that information. Just wanted to mention that is also happening. It's cultural appropriation to all cultures.
Yes.
Which is unfortunate and should stop, please.
To move on from the very fun topic of racism into the even more fun topic of drugs.
Great.
There's a lot of drug scandals that happen. From a Western point of view,
these don't matter.
They're not.
Most of these
do not matter at all.
Most of
these do not matter.
They're a big issue in Korea. But from a Western standpoint, a lot of them are about marijuana and other just like Perk Bombs is about Adderall. So
and then BI's is about LSD.
Yeah.
And then recently, there was like
no one's doing meth in K-pop.
Well, someone was accused of doing fentanyl.
That's different.
That is a little bit, but it's still nonetheless a bad drug.
It's not great, but like I'm just saying, for the majority, we're talking weed. And while from a Western perspective, this doesn't matter to us, we do have to realize that as Western fans, we are going into a music industry that, while being made for us, is also not made for us.
Yes.
That is something that as a K-pop fan, I think you realize is that, yes, they do want to cater to a Western market, but also at the end of the day, they're still Korean. At the end of the day, they still have to, like, this is their society, and we are just becoming a part of that entertainment industry. Still, the majority is Korea. So you do have to look at their values.
And all of these things are still illegal in Korea.
And it is still breaking the law.
Yeah. So I guess we're just to go chronologically with a few of the more major ones.
You'll find a lot of them involve the company of YG Entertainment.
Yep.
Seems to be a consistent thread there.
Consistent thread here. So the first one we have was probably a little bit lesser known, but in 2001, Psy got arrested for weed use. It got no really traction because Psy was not that popular back in 2001. Also, K-pop was not big in the international audience in 2001.
You'll find that that Psy is the reason K-pop now is a contributing factor why K-pop is currently now popular.
Yes.
So
yes. But
I think that one was kind of swept under the rug. Was this? He was in YG at this time,
No,
right?
he was not in
that
YG.
Was before
that was
YG.
years later.
So this is even before he was in YG. So this is before Psy did
The sad thing about this case, though, is that his
big.
grandfather died during this, and he was not able to attend the funeral, which I'm like,
oh that's really sad.
That is sad. But, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, this was illegal. He was only in jail for 25 days, so it wasn't terrible
right,
in the grand
It
scheme of
wasn't-
things.
yeah.
but
It could have
still.
been worse, yeah.
And he's
That's
had
honestly
other
one of
issues
the
too with his
harsher
military
sentences.
stuff, and I feel like that's more of a
He had
bigger
to
issue.
redo it again, but that doesn't have anything to do with
That's
the
not
weed.
tied with
Yeah.
the weed though. But
Sai
still.
had to redo his. If you don't know, Sai had to redo his military service. I don't think we put that on the Scandal
We did
Iceberg,
not.
but like look up that story because it's kind of wild.
It is.
I think it was related to him like still doing promo or release.
Oh no, he technically didn't do anything wrong. Like he probably didn't have to, but he did it just to shut everybody up.
Mhm.
So then we have G-Dragon from the lovely group Big Bang. In 2011, let's go with quote-unquote accidentally took a quote-unquote cigarette from someone he didn't know in Japan, and then they would later find out that it wasn't a cigarette, it was actually weed.
I don't know
Yeah.
how
Quote,
he
unquote,
got away with
accidentally.
this. I don't know how he
Quote,
got away with
he got away with it scot-free.
Yeah.
He must have paid someone
When
a
he
lot
was
of
coming
money.
back to Korea, so when he was coming back to Korea, when they drug tested him, that's when they found out, yes, this was weed.
Yes.
Because when you go back into Korea, it is interesting, because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but it's not even that you can leave Korea, do drugs legally outside of Korea, and then come back.
No.
When you come back into Korea, you are drug tested.
Yes, yes.
So you cannot just go out and do drugs.
And it's
This
funny
is
too
also,
that it was
like-
in Japan, because I'm like, if anything, I think Japan
Yeah.
may even be stricter about drugs than Korea. So I'm like,
I don't
who
know.
the
It was a
fuck?
party.
It
There's
was a
always
party.
ways
Fair
to
enough,
get
it's
drugs
a
in a
party.
party.
Party
It's
time.
a party.
Party.
It's party time. Party.
Party.
Yep.
I don't know how he got it.
I don't know how he got away with
this
it either.
scot-free.
But
Because
he
this
did.
was 2011. This was like right as Big Bang is getting massively, not right as, Big Bang is massively popular at this point.
Yeah, this is
But,
like right
like-
before Fantastic Baby too, like a year before.
Yeah, this is
that.
like
Oh,
right
yeah.
before Fantastic Baby. Like this is right before he's about to like blow up internationally. Because they were big in Korea, and this is sort of where like bits of K-pop are leaking out into the rest of the world. And it's insane to me that like YG managed to get him nothing. Not even probation, just nothing
I
happened.
feel like
because of
why
it.
I feel like Yang,
YG
Mr.
had
Yang,
more power.
plus some
back
pull some
then.
I think had a lot of
strings with a
power
police
back then,
dude.
yeah.
YG, I think, had a lot of
And a lot of
influence
money,
back
a
then.
lot of money, and
Different
good
and a lot of money.
connections. Apparently, I think that's
Because
what
you'll
got
find
this
as we
out.
go down that as, you know, the companies change a little bit, they're more willing, I guess, to let their artists kind of out to dry.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Because then we go to the 2014
Speaking of leaving
Kpop
people out to die.
scandal. Leaving people out to dry. Yep.
Yeah.
She was accused of smuggling a narcotic amphetamine, which is Adderall, which is not legal in Korea. It is not. She was prescribed it by a doctor in the U.S. legally, and then was trying to take it back with her to Korea, but it is illegal to take. But Adderall is not a legal drug in Korea,
Mhm.
so she was then detained for that. Nothing happened with her legally because I guess it was more of a I think they figured out it was more of a misunderstanding situation
Right,
as opposed
right.
to her trying to sell drugs.
And,
No,
like,
her
Adderall
reputation
is
got
also a-
trashed in Korea, though.
And I
because
think
of
that's
it.
what really happened
Her
is her
reputation
public
was the
her public like reputation
legally
is
she was fine,
like destroyed
but she
after
also
that.
never came back to 21 post 2014.
Mhm.
She was in that one like
Goodbye
Mama,
video.
CL Mama performance when
Yeah.
they got back together for that
Oh,
one
that's
performance.
Yeah,
right,
she
last
showed
yeah.
time
that
they had all
Mama
of 21.
performance
She
and
was.
she showed
She
up
was
and no
showed
one
up
expected
there.
her to be there, yeah.
Yep, she showed up and it was great, and we had that last performance, and then she was in the goodbye video, and then 21 died.
Yep. Really kind of sad.
The saddest
Considering
thing
it
about
was
this-
only over
yeah.
Adderall.
The saddest thing about
Yeah.
this too is that I feel bad for anyone who has ADHD or ADD in Korea, because I don't even know if they even die. Because
True.
if I remember correctly, I don't think they really recognize that as an illness. So I'm just thinking about all these
I
poor
think
kids.
I don't know
who have to
if
go
that's
through the
still a
school
thing.
system
I
there.
think that might have changed.
I hope so,
recently.
because that's a
I don't know because
Yeah.
again, we are not healthcare professionals in Korea.
No.
Yeah.
We're not healthcare professionals in the U.S. either.
we're definitely not. We don't
I
PhDs.
kind of am.
I was
but
gonna say you're the
If
closest
anything,
we
you're the
got.
closest, yeah. But
I am a nurse.
I
so,
did
yeah,
remember reading
again,
a couple
I
articles.
think there are
where-
other ways of
Yeah.
like treating your ADD.
Mhm.
Like I believe they have other options for treatment, but I know specifically Adderall. Again, Adderall is not. I'm not gonna say Adderall is like completely like just chill, yeah, you can bring it anywhere kind of drug, because it is still a countable substance. It's still a narcotic, and it's still very much.
And people who don't have ADHD also will take it and like
a lot.
Abuse it for
that. I can agree with
purposes.
that.
We all went to college.
My school in
know.
particular, STEM. I don't know. This is just based on my observations. STEM kids, I don't know. I felt like we're the most.
We all were
ones.
STEM kids, Maria. We all were STEM.
My
kids.
school was a very STEM focused
Adderall.
school, though. But that was just from my perspective. I've heard that it's a thing too in other types of what they call it, majors.
Oh no,
but,
anyone that wants to it's a thing in every school. It's also a thing in high school.
Like kids who are prescribed it will literally sell it to other kids,
which is insane.
Yeah.
Especially if they don't. Especially if they're like the thing that they think that they can get away without it.
If they can, like function daily without it, like they will straight up sell it to other kids. So.
Yeah, so I can see why it's sort of almost a restriction on that, but again, it is useful to people that need it, obviously. So I just think that her public reputation did not need to be as trash as it was.
No, and I think it's like. The international audience at that point, especially probably like the more Western audience, like because I think they were also calling it a narcotic amphetamine to make it sound worse than it is. But once you look into it, and it's literally Adderall. At that point, I think a lot of people understand it.
I will give it this: Adderall is that is if you were to classify Adderall, that is technically how you classify it. That is a narcotic amphetamine. That is what it is. Technically, they're not lying at that point, but
it makes it sound much worse.
It makes it sound like she's
not need to sound that scary.
It makes it sound like she's trying to smuggle coke or some shit into the country when it's just alcohol. You know, it sounds like for people who aren't in the know with drugs, it sounds like it's much worse than what it actually is.
Again, I just also think that, especially with court proceedings, you do have to sort of to give them to play devil's advocate, you do have to, in the media, they could just say Adderall. In any court proceeding, you do kind of have to give it what it is legally defined as.
Yeah.
So I'll give it that. I just think that it was overblown. But I also think that this is like early K-pop getting popular in the West. I think people were just very like reactionary. I find that a lot of K-pop fans are very reactionary.
No kidding.
Oh yeah.
So anything to make an idol look good or bad, you're gonna take that opportunity. And I think even worse back then, I think K-pop fans were so, I don't want to say moralistic, because we'll get to it when we talk especially about some of our more of these topics that are lower down, but I do think K-pop fans have sort of changed in their mindsets of what is acceptable, what's not acceptable. I do think that we have almost gotten to a point where we don't, this might just be me, but I feel like a lot of older like back in the day, a lot of people viewed these idols as little dolls, little perfect.
But
dolls
I also think that was the point of their companies
wrong.
to have them viewed as that.
No, but that's still what the company puts out.
Yeah.
But the fans now almost allow them a little more breathing room to be a person. And I do think that also might be from recent events of different things that have happened, people coming out with different. Again, we don't talk about deaths. We don't talk about people coming out with anxiety and depression. But that's more of a concern now.
Yeah.
I think, Korea's definitely making a turnaround on that, I think, generally as a culture.
And also just idols are more open that it happens. And that's why they're taking breaks or they are taking breaks to do that.
Yeah.
So I do think that it almost forces the fans to view them as people, not as the perfect little dolls the company puts out. Because I don't think that there's any change in the marketing in that way.
No,
I just think that there's a change in the fan perspective.
Yeah.
Which I think is good. Because as we get down to more of these lower scandals that are more recent, like 2017, 2020, all of that, you do view them more as people. So I think that's a good turnaround. Next we have T.O.P. to continue on YG.
YG Entertainment.
The YG of it all.
In 2017, he tested positive for weed, and during this time, he was also in doing his military service.
Ouch.
And he received a 10-month suspended sentence. I remember when this happened. This was sort of the first scandal that I was sort of very much aware of as it occurred, of these drug scandals.
Oh, yeah.
As it occurred.
Yeah.
And that was a wild time.
Yeah, that was
really
a mess.
Was a lot.
Oh, God.
It was an absolute mess. No one fully... Because it was also the time where, like, different reports were coming out. No one fully knew what was happening. he was in the military, and then people didn't know where he was for a little bit, and then there was
let's
just a
not
lot
forget
happening.
a certain former idol trainee. I feel like this was the first big start.
We'll get to
that person.
She gets a section.
We'll get to it.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying this was the first time I heard of her.
The next 3 of them.
This was the first time we heard of her ass. Was because of TOP.
That was the first time I heard about this girl.
That's where she appeared.
At least internationally. Maybe within Korea she might have been connected to something else prior.
I don't think anyone cared about this girl. She's not that interesting other than when she does to other people.
Well, then she sells drugs to other people.
A lot of other people.
Yeah.
She definitely comes from money, though. Because
what happened with TOP. This is also one of the first times we see that them actually getting. Recently, I do think that they are cracking down harder on idols because, as you see, the further we go down,
the worse the sentences
the worse
get.
the sentences
Oh,
get.
yeah. So the next one we have
getting prosecuted.
To continue with the YG of it all. We have BI.
It's the last YG.
BI, formerly of Icon, in 2019. He was essentially kicked out of Icon for purchase of weed and LSD from this said trainee involved in the Kpop Scandal as well. He's got a 4-year probation with a 3-year jail sentence if he breaks probation.
His probation's almost over.
Yeah.
Well, no. When did he go on probation?
I also think the sentencing was more recent. So he probably still has a bit
recent. I think the
left
sentencing
of it.
was I think the sentencing was like last year.
Mm-hmm.
But again, another K-pop scandal we were all aware of. I want to know what BI was doing on LSD, honestly.
It was apparently so much LSD he tried to purchase, too. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
It was a lot of LSD. Was he buying? My question was, is it like a Costco thing where he was buying in bulk? Like, to get a lower rate.
Or is it
like, no one person can take that much LSD.
I'm pretty sure,
Oh
don't quote me 100% on this, but I'm pretty sure I read in an article that he said he was using it because it helped his creative process for writing music. I'm pretty sure that's
so
what he
much
said,
LSD
but
to try
he
to
clearly tried to be like, I was going to try to take a page from Lady Gaga when she said weed helped her out and do that, and it's like... you hear that? It's funny, because I wouldn't say him getting in trouble is funny, but like, it's...
Okay.
The thing that's funny is like hearing about other like musicians, talk about taking drugs to improve creativity. I wonder if he thought that was a great idea, which was a dumb idea. I mean, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's just I feel like that's a whole other topic for a whole other day, but it's something tells me he was trying to emulate that kind of vibe. And it's like, oh god, buddy, no.
Mm-hmm. So apparently he was sentenced in 2021 to the 4-year probation, 3-year suspended sentence, to 80 hours of community service, 40 hours of drug treatment sessions, and to pay 1.5 million won, which is...
Oh, boy.
Why is this only converting this into pounds? It's 920 pounds.
920 pounds?
If someone wants to... No, 920 euros, my apologies.
Million won, I think, is
if
like
someone wants to convert that to dollars.
How much? How much is how many euros was it?
Wait, no, sorry. 9,300.
300 euros?
Euros.
That's about $10,600 US dollars.
Yeah. This article is really not well written. In terms of the quality of the English.
It's fine.
Oh boy.
But yes. So now we're out of the YG of it all for I think the rest for the minute. So the next one we have is Wonho. Wonho also in 2019.
So yeah, Wonho, formerly of Monsta X.
Yes.
So this one is also a wild story because
it's a
it was
wild
also
story.
not just drugs.
Guess who comes knocking on the door again?
Because
the same bitch who was involved with the other two.
Do the drugs, but this same girl involved in both the TOP and the BI scandals.
So we can talk about her now because now it's Han So-hee, former YG trainee,
that
apparently somehow sold top weed, BI weed and LSD, and also Wonho weed. But the question really is, how did this girl never get in trouble for this, even though she gravely admitted to doing all of those things?
She is the one, I think, probably most at fault for all 3 of these scandals, and, like, what are we doing with her exactly?
Honestly, I'm just gonna say it, she's probably connected to someone who has a lot of power and money, period.
How else is she able to buy all these drugs? Amount of involvement she has
How else is she able to buy this much LSD? She's not making the LSD, she's getting it from somewhere.
Funny. Because with the Wonho thing, she literally just threw out a blind accusation at Wonho. It's like, yeah, Wonho smoked weed in 2013. It's 2019. She throws out this accusation at
this
Wonho.
point. At that point, Wonho would have been a trainee at the time when she would have been smoking with her, by the way.
And then, so Starship, like, panicked and kicked him out of Monsta X.
But kept him on as a soloist under Starship Entertainment. Did not kick him out of the company, by the way.
Which is interesting.
Now Wonho's not Monsta X.
And also, turns out last year he was cleared of all charges. So, like, nothing came of this.
What was the point of that?
I don't know.
I think she just had a real bad grudge against Wonho, I guess.
Did Wonho reject her? Maybe.
Maybe. Also,
now I'm just making up scandals. I'm sorry. That didn't happen.
Also, clearly she had some beef against him. Clearly.
Probably. I mean, she had to just throw out a wild as an accusation.
Wild accusation?
I also want to talk about, I read what she wrote for, like, she said she gave weed to BI. She, like, did not. She was like, see, I gave it to him because I purchased it from this person and then I sold it to him for the exact same price, so I didn't make a profit, so I didn't sell it to him. And I'm like, yes, you did. You definitely sold him the weed.
Girl, that's not how it works.
She was just the middleman, okay?
If there's money being transactioned to get something, you sold them a project, you dumbass.
And I was like, I don't know what you think technically sold is, but you definitely sold them drugs. Like,
I don't know what's happening.
You literally just admitted that you sold him drugs.
God, she's such a troll. Oh my god.
I hate her. I'm happy we've sort of gotten rid of her.
Yeah.
For now, until
she's gonna appear. She's gonna appear this year.
I know. Just watch. She's gonna be back, and we'll be like,
she's gonna take down this year.
Who's new and hot and upcoming? Because that's what she did. Because look at this. Like, you go from Big Bang to, like, right after Icon had the love scenario that fucking hit. Then she goes after BI. Then Wonho becomes the new big thing. And then she goes after Wonho. Who's it now?
Well, it's not Ilhoon, I'll tell you that. Because he did that all on his own.
It's Stray Kids,
He did that on his own.
Stray Kids.
Yeah.
So, then we're going to talk about the last drug scandal we have.
This
the last of the notable drug scandals.
This is the most recent, one of the most recent ones.
So it's Ilhoon of B2B, who in 2020 smoked weed one time and got a 2-year suspended sentence, which just seems excessive.
Also was kicked out of B2B.
Obviously. Even though B2B, I don't think is happy about it.
I don't know. But yes, that's like, it's essentially most of these follow especially the more recent we go, like, smoked weed and then got a suspended sentence and got kicked out of the group. Is like essentially the exact same thing that happened.
To do some
community service and drug rehab, yeah.
And then we're fine. So now we go to a very fun topic.
This is a very fun and this is a very specific topic as well. But it's happened to 3 different groups, and this is, we call
all
it
girl
bullying.
groups too. All girl groups.
All girl groups.
Yes.
Again, all the drug things were boy. Oh no, except for Park Bomb.
Yeah.
Most of the drug things of smoking weed were boy groups.
It seems to be like,
so now
I'm sensing a pattern here. Just a slight pattern.
So now we get the quote-unquote, fake bullying. This to not be confused with all the idols that are accused of being school bullies from when they were children. We'll talk about specific examples later, but most of those end up doing nothing.
This is a very specific case of fake bullying.
One of which is still kind of up for debate. The other 2, not so much.
Yeah.
Specifically, the first one, not up for debate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do you want me to go into the Tiara one? Because I know a decent amount.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go into the Tiara one.
Yeah, so Tiara is the first one of these that happened, and is essentially the same, like, sort of a, format that happened to the other ones. So what happened here is that it all started essentially at a concert that Tiara was doing it was a concert in Japan. I don't remember the exact year it happened in.
Did it happen when they were doing Lovey Dovey Dovey? Probably.
They were at like a peak. Tiara was at their peak at this time.
2011, I think. 2010, 2011. Probably 2011. Or
2012. 2013 is when this happened.
Okay.
So one of the newer members, Hwa Young, she was a more recent member. She, like, got added to the group late. And she essentially got added after Tiara was already sort of blowing up and, like, getting really popular. At one of their Japan concerts, she only performed one of the songs because at the time everyone thought she was injured. But after the concert, a lot of the other members went on to Twitter or made, I don't know if it probably wasn't Twitter, but it was somewhere. And they essentially made all of these posts that were like, there's a difference in the level of determination here. And essentially every other member of the group made a message saying that, like, that was alluding to the fact that she didn't participate in the concert because she was lazy and she didn't want to. And because of that, essentially it was then determined by their fandom and the netizens that all of the other members of T-ara were bullying her. And so what happened then is everyone went into T-ara's past, dug up all of these times from variety shows that they thought were instances of her getting bullied by all of the other members.
Again, just imagine all of those stupid K-pop compilations you find of like two members interacting that they're like trying to prove something that don't mean anything.
This was all we got.
Just picture those, but like blown up to the point where they're trying to end careers.
Yeah, and essentially at that point, their public perception as a group like plummeted. Everyone thought they were terrible. No one wanted
they were bad people.
anything to do with them
that basically
anymore.
destroyed their career for the most part.
They destroyed
their
them
career.
For the most part. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
essentially,
mean, it destroyed them until they came back later on.
Yes,
we'll talk
because
about
what happened eventually is that what had to happen is staff members, like former staff members of them, had to come out and say that this has gone way too far. What actually happened at that concert is this girl showed up late and was lazy. She said she had like a bad knee or like a bad leg, but she was walking around fine. Showed up the day of the concert and said, I don't want to perform or anything. All of the other members had to re-choreograph the entire concert without her there.
Yeah, I'd be pissed. As a member, I would be pretty pissed.
I would have been mad
someone
too.
Decided to pull that unless they had like a legit reason.
Yeah.
To be there.
This is also, I think, why you don't, especially post this, you'll find that K-pop idols don't really post much on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
This is why.
Oh, yeah.
This is why K-pop, you will never get the tea out of a K-pop idol for reasons like this.
And, like, essentially what she said she kept, like, requesting, like, oh, I need a wheelchair. But then they took her to a hospital in Japan. They said she was fine, but, like, maybe had, like, a swollen ankle or something. And then she goes, oh, but I want to go get my nails done while everyone else is out there preparing for a concert.
Oh, my God.
And essentially a lot of other staff members also came out and said that she was not at all bullied. If anything, she was a detriment to the other members of the group because she came into this group that was already popular, did not have to work for the popularity at all, and felt incredibly entitled because of it. She also has a big thing where she has a sister who is an actress, and essentially she started sending really nasty messages to one of the other members of T-ara, and was essentially bullying her constantly instead. And it's like, okay, well, if you're saying that you're being bullied, but now you have your sister bullying back another member of your group, like, that's probably not a great look there at all.
It's just so much petty bullshit blown up.
It's
because they're famous.
much petty bullshit.
Again, it's a lot of petty bullshit that
it's such a girl thing to do this kind of
groups.
mega mind shit too, because the shit that I hear from these three groups just like reminds me of some people that I went to high school with. I'm just like, what's the fucking point of all this? You know,
not that again, K-pop idols are normal people anyway. This happens to any
people are petty
at all, and I do think this is probably happening in K-pop girl groups or K-pop groups generally every day.
Oh yeah.
The other thing is that T-ara would not make a comeback until 2016 because of this.
4
and
years.
In 2016 was when all of this started to come out that it was all bullshit, and they gained a bit of popularity back. They were able to do, I believe, like 3 comebacks.
They actually won a music show too after that.
They won a music show with that one comeback, and they were able to do a few more things, but that it ended up killing T-ara because they were never as popular. They'd taken 4 years off. The industry had completely changed by the time they came back, and now the group is disbanded.
Yeah.
So in a way, it didn't fully kill them.
No, but it definitely...
But it did absolutely, like...
It's like, that's kind of the bad thing about all 3 of these, is all 3 of these happened at, like, a really bad... Like, I think it was almost purposely happened at, like, when they were hitting a peak in popularity or having a comeback.
Not so much
AOA, but AOA I think was on like a slope back up after Queendom, and then it just got hit with the Jimin Mina stuff. And April was definitely on like a really good trajectory when that stuff blew up as well.
Yeah. So, because the next instance of this occurs with AOA. So, after AOA was on Queendom in 2019, in 2020, there begins to have a statement from a member of AOA, former member of AOA, Mina, who comes out and essentially accuses Jimin of bullying her for 10 years. Essentially, the entire time she was in AOA, she was bullied by Mina. Mm-hmm. And, like, the other members just were not helping. I don't think she fully accused them of doing anything.
I think it was more of a bystander type thing, if anything.
Bystander effect?
Yeah.
She just accused her of being very angry, screaming at her, doing all these other things. There's a very long statement that she made, and which has now been taken down. Mm-hmm. And then that caused, like, AOA to, well, Jimin would then leave AOA and post an apology to Mina, which most people thought, oh, that's the end of that. Everyone's a terrible person. Mm-hmm. AOA's done.
Yep.
And then Mina just couldn't keep her big mouth shut.
Mina will continue to bring it back up multiple times.
Mina will continue to bring it up.
Which then makes you go, what's actually going on?
Yep. But then in 2021, Dispatch, of all places, coming out here, essentially comes out with these, I don't know how they got access to them, but these text conversations between the two of them. And they seem very friendly. You get that they are just apparently very... Because a lot of this occurred post Jimin's father passing away. And Mina was, like, just reaching out to her to comfort her for that. But these do not seem like text messages. Mm-hmm. And plus, all these texts were occurring while the scandal was dropping. And it turns out that these did not seem like the text messages of someone who was being actively bullied by this person for the past decade.
No, not at all. And the thing is that Jimin she very much sounded apologetic in every sort of response she was making to Mina. And Mina was just, like, essentially attacking her with things that she was saying, like, here's all these horrible things you did to me, and Jimin is like, I really, like, don't remember that. I'm, like, really sorry for it. And she just, like, would not let up on a lot of it.
Because, again, it's not fully known how much of this is, like, it's possible that, like, Jimin did do a lot of things to Mina that are very not great and possibly did bully her for a while, but just the response back and forth just seems like it's not as cut and dry a situation as we previously thought.
It very much seems like Mina for a long time was, like, just not in a very good mental state generally. And I think maybe she was like that while she was still in AOA, and then after leaving, I think having time to think about it maybe made her even more bitter about it, and then just sort of continued to attack, like, mostly Jimin.
In a way,
afterwards.
This isn't necessarily as much fake bullying as it is just,
it seemed because
where it doesn't seem like anyone is correct.
Yeah, no one doesn't seem
because
to be.
It also did seem very much like pro Mina, anti Jimin, and the rest of AOA when this stuff first came out. But in more recent revelations had come out that say it's very much more of, like, there's more to both of those sides than you think there is.
And if anything, people which is fair, because I'm like, Mina's mental health, if anything, because I'm just kind of like, you know, if people are moving away from I'm trying to find the best way to word this, but, like, you know, when trauma happens to someone, it can still hurt years later, but, you know, people try to move on over time. They don't just try to go back into it and, like,
not necessarily. I don't want to also invalidate possibly what Mina went through at the time.
No, I'm not saying I'm not saying that. That's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying Mina.
A bystander. No, what I'm saying is that we as a bystander will never know what happened.
Yeah.
And we can only get it from these snippets and these very, very publicized statements. These very rehearsed apologies, these apologies that probably went through 8 people and a lawyer.
Oh yeah.
And also this stuff that is leaked otherwise. So who knows what actually is happening? We will never know. I just think that villainizing one person and the other person is entirely a saint probably wasn't the best idea. But then again, I also don't blame people's response to the first allegation because
at the time it did seem like it was really bad.
Yeah, you do the best with the information that you have.
I mean,
if the only information that's being given to you is this person sucks and they're apologizing for being a terrible person, then where am I being led to believe?
Right,
no one is defending themselves.
And like we had absolutely no idea of any other viewpoints other than that. So
yeah, because I don't even know if the other members were.
I don't necessarily I do
inquired.
think maybe the reaction might have been very like overblown, but who's to say? And then there's the other members of AOA who were dragged into this. It just seemed like a very confusing situation that like all ended here with AOA still, because Jimin's out of FNC. AOA is in shambles.
Although Jimin is starting to make a slight comeback, though.
Solo comeback.
So apparently,
but I'm talking AOA the group.
She dropped that SoundCloud song that was essentially it's directly talking about this entire situation.
Exactly. So Jimin is apparently fine, hopefully fine, and we'll probably be hearing more from her. But I am just curious what happens to the rest of the members of AOA.
I mean, at this point, them as a group, I just don't see them coming back from this.
Oh no, that group is
done.
Done.
There's absolutely no chance anything's happening with AOA anymore.
I mean,
they're ruined.
If anything, I feel like this story in particular really shows how, at least how easy it is to get on a bandwagon of just a little bit of slight information you get. And then, like, I think that's like a good reminder of like being careful when stories like this kind of come out, because it's kind of like you probably are getting truth, but it's also part of it. There's a lot of people
that I've seen that were very reactionary. I mean, we saw people be very reactionary to the opinions about the story.
We did.
We've seen that, and it's a difficult topic because at the same time, if it is true, you also do not want to support. It is a wire that you are trying to walk when you're dealing with this kind of story.
The next group
do you want to move up to the most confusing one of all?
Yeah, so
this one I feel like I need a whole.
Is April. So what happened with April
is super confusing.
It's very confusing. So what happened originally is that they have a former member named Hyunju. She left originally because she said she wanted to pursue an acting career. Then in February of 2021, someone posted in an online forum who claimed to be her brother said that the real reason she left was because she was being severely bullied by the other members, and not because she wanted to pursue acting. And so, lots of things have come up since that. Both posts from Hyunju, her supposed brother, the members of April, like.
I think it has come out that was her brother.
Yes. There has also been, I think, the most information available about this one than I think any of the other two cases, because we really got statements from everybody possible with this one.
Oh, please. Literally anybody that could have released it. There's like 8 statements.
There was a member of Ajax who released a statement about this for some reason, because he felt like he had something to contribute to this.
Which honestly didn't say anything. It really was just that, like,
it did say that he thought Hyunju was like pretty awful as a person to deal with. Is what that statement said. But so what happened is essentially they wanted specifics afterwards, and so they kept there's a couple of specific things which are very just petty drama things that she keeps pointing to as like severe bullying. One of them includes someone taking a thermos that was hers by accident and using it, and that apparently made her really upset. Another one includes someone wearing a pair of shoes that were hers by accident. Those are the two I see a lot brought up. And then essentially someone had to post, like a manager just posted a picture of their dorm, and they're like, this is the floor of the dorm. There are like 100 pairs of shoes here. and also the thermoses, and just like there are like 50 thermoses here. If someone took one by accident, like it could just happen. No one was doing that out of out of spite.
The other thing is that Hyunju left April in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
April debuted in August of. She left in October 2016. April debuted in August of 2015. Within that time, April's lineup changed a bunch as well. Originally, if a lot of people don't remember this, Somin from Card was in that original lineup.
Oh yeah.
There was so much activity
Oh
going on with April at this time. Like, there were members leaving, there were members added, there's a lot going on. Plus,
Hyunju also went on the unit in 2017 as well, and I'm pretty sure won that show.
Yeah, she was in Unity till 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, like, it was a confusing situation, because at that point also, I believe Naeun from April was also then accused of being a school bully.
Yes.
From when she was in, I believe it was middle school, high school?
And it's because Naeun is not that old, so it was probably middle school.
It was elementary school.
Oh, elementary
school.
Oh my God.
And then that has recently all just been withdrawn, legal accusations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the person came out and just wrote an apology, and
then DSP withdrew legal action.
Their legal action.
Yeah.
And now interesting, because like there are lawsuits involved, and no one's able to provide evidence, but also there were charges of defamation with
there's charges of defamation going both directions.
But that was like, but the one against the brother have been dropped.
Mm-hmm.
But also DSP is still claiming that is only because that was dropped because the police believe that he believes he's telling the truth, that he is not knowingly defaming them.
Right.
He is unknowingly defaming
them.
Huh.
Which, I don't know. It's all of this is
what?
still going.
It's just
all of this is still happening.
It's so confusing.
None of this is clear.
And I think what's really happening is like what's been happening and what really kind of broke it from blaming the members of April for like being bullies and everything is that, for one, they released therapy records from like very far into the past of a couple of the members of April, where both of those members
were. I do not think that we should like that. I should not have access to therapy records for a bunch of teenage girls.
No, but that was like a questionable decision.
Terrible thing.
Yeah,
but they were essentially
to these teenage girls' therapy
saying
records.
that both of them were incredibly stressed by Hyunju because she was just seemingly so unwilling to like practice and just be in a K-pop group in general that it was ruining their entire group dynamic. And then the fans have tried to paste together a timeline of when all of these events have happened.
Let's be honest. The timeline is maybe 8 months.
Yeah.
Or like a year and a half.
Yeah.
We'll get, like a full year and a half that this could have happened.
And what happened is Hyunju's statements get more detailed the more statements she released. And because of that, the fans have figured out that the timeline that she's saying these events happened does not add up at all.
You know what you're saying? That reminds me of
things that she's claiming have happened were when they were not even living in a dorm together, or a lot of things like that.
You know what this reminds me of?
Broke it down too.
This is a little bit off topic, but this reminds me of the certain true crime cases where the people who claim to be not guilty give way too much information, and then it comes off as like too much detail as an indication of lying. So this is kind of like what this is reminding me of.
Anybody is correct. I'm not gonna say that none of this happened, because there's probably nuggets of truth in every statement. But it just seems like, I mean, there are like paragraph long statements from everybody.
Yeah.
Like,
the amount of statements that were given from literally anybody even tangentially involved in this is a lot. There's a lot to read through for it.
Yeah, you can dive into this, but we just gave you the Cliff Notes version. It just seems like a situation that has gotten too complicated.
And I think what this probably boils down to is they left a bunch of like early teenage girls together in a dorm, and they were just having like petty conflicts normal teenage girl like petty conflicts with each other all the time. Because they also, I mean, when you add on to the pressure of, like, you know, being a K-pop idol and everything, I'm sure that just massively increases everyone's, like, anxiety and worsens everyone's mental health, so.
These kids are living by themselves in a dorm room.
Yeah, exactly.
With no adult supervision.
Yeah.
That seems fully healthy.
Oh, yeah.
That seems like a total great way for drama to start.
Oh, yes.
Such a great cesspool for drama to start.
So that was
fake bullying.
I think now we get into some
I think we're in a more fun.
Let's get to the fun
category.
section.
Till the
Dating
end
between
of Iceberg, really.
Ooh.
Guys, we got to talk about the dating.
We got to talk about the
idols.
dating.
Specifically dating idols dating other idols,
yes,
not idols dating other
a non-celebrity.
That's a different
That's
tier.
different.
We'll talk about that later. We're going to talk about idols dating idols. And also Inkigayo sandwiches, because that is the funniest thing.
Literally, I remember this was such a meme on the internet.
Inkigayo sandwiches are not a scandal. Inkigayo sandwiches are
but it's just a funny tidbit.
Thing that we now know about.
Yes.
Mind you, I hate who we found this out
I
from,
know, it's really
Who was it? Was it
Sungri?
It was Sungri.
Yeah.
Oh my god. How ironic.
On a retrospective, it's really terrible. Like, horrible that's the person who outed that.
So an Inkigayo sandwich, for people that don't know, is that essentially I don't know if this also happens in other places, but specifically
like the
on
music
Inkigayo,
core sandwich or something like that.
But Inkigayo sandwich is more fun, and honestly, I think that Sungri can probably only speak to Inkigayo because YG artists don't do many music shows.
This is correct.
But it's possibly, who's to say if this happens other places? But apparently, this is how idols get each other's phone numbers. That essentially they are placing their phone numbers in a sandwich and giving it to the other idols in the Inkigayo cafeteria, which is the only place that they can all be to get in the same place. It's like a pen.
You know what's the best thing about this sandwich too?
And they're all like exchanging numbers, and that's how you got to get your number to the girl or guy
and
or whatever.
I really find it fucking funny too that it's an egg sandwich as well that they're giving it.
It is an egg sandwich.
It's a
of
weird,
all sandwiches,
it's an egg
sandwich.
Jam crab sandwich is very bizarre.
Which again, I feel like that is either a delicious combination or a disgusting combination.
To be good.
And it is both
has to
of
be
those
good
to
because
different
everyone says it's good.
I mean, everyone does say it's good, but I feel like if you give it to somebody, they're gonna think it's
such
disgusting.
a bizarre combination of things to put in a sandwich.
It's like
but
fish,
that's not
so yeah.
Besides
and
the
jam.
point here.
What the fuck?
I mean, fish and eggs go well together.
They can.
That's a
But
no
then you
thing.
add
I
in the
guess
strawberry jam,
weird.
and that's where you lose me a little bit. I'm like,
I like that. That's what we're judging is the quality of the
Yeah.
sandwich, not so much the fact that
you put your phone number in a sandwich
in the plastic wrap and then give it to the idol that you like. And I guess that's how idols, start texting.
Or did at least. I don't.
I mean, I'm sure there are.
Start talking.
I'm sure there are other ways they do this as well, but it's just a fun tidbit that adds.
I
to
think
this
that's
section.
just probably. I mean, for the most part, I think idols are really interconnected now, and they're able to have friends.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this also just helps with, I guess, a lot of the idols that are in groups that aren't necessarily in the same orbit.
This is true. Yeah.
So now we're going to go through very fun, specific, mostly recent examples of different idols that dated.
Mm-hmm.
Many of which some you may have forgotten dated.
This is correct. Yep. So the first one is Taeyeon and Baekhyun. That's like a pretty well-known one. I think it's one of the biggest ones when you talk about idols dating idols. It was Taeyeon and Baekhyun.
But it's also one of the ones, because I think there's been a massive shift in how people react to idols dating.
Because when they came
Especially
out
recently,
as dating, it ruined their careers for a hot second. It was
Everyone
really
was
bad
so
for
unhappy.
both of them.
Mainly because of just fans going kind of crazy over that sort
The
of stuff.
fandoms, I think the fandoms are definitely more recently much more open to idols dating than they were in the past.
For Taeyeon and Baekhyun, I remember about the paparazzi dispatch as photos of them, supposedly kissing.
I feel like Dispatch used to be, the big one of, revealing idols dating, and now they don't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they just kind of gave up on it. Or something.
Well, no, I think that they're now just using them as a way to get them onto their stupid concert thing.
Oh, yeah,
Honestly,
that's probably it.
Just, fair.
Come do this. Do this now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was 2014. So that was a while ago.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
long
sure
time
it
ago
wasn't
at
an
this
easy
point.
ride for Taeyeon. I know that. I know the.
Oh,
Taeyeon
Taeyeon
specific-
was destroyed.
In a lot of these cases, I think the female
The
has
women get
the
it
women have it
harder.
a lot harder. Yeah,
Oh yeah. Now not so much.
it depends. I
one-
think on like the fandom
depends.
and also like who specifically it is. A lot of the time.
Also, a point to be made: we are not going to talk about Hyun and Iran here. We will talk about them later.
Yes, they are in a completely separate section.
They're in
That's
a
a whole
different
other
team. Yes,
situation.
Yeah, that's a whole other can of
That
worms.
is a
But we're talking
separate
about ones that
section.
mainly don't end at the end of all careers.
Mhm.
So another one that a bunch of people I think would have forgotten about.
Oh yeah, this
is,
one.
Seolhyun and Zico.
This was a thing.
They dated.
This was a thing.
This was a thing. This was a thing in 2016.
But I felt like it was
In
only for
August
like a
of
month.
2016.
It was short-ish.
It
It was not
again,
that
We
long.
don't know how short it was because we only know that they are dating in August of 2016. We don't know for how long before that.
This is true.
But yeah, so then there were photos of Seolhyun going into Zico's
That's like the
apartment.
funniest thing to me with this one is that Dispatch got so many photos of Seolhyun thinking she's sneaky going into Zico's apartment.
when really she is
And
out
she's
in
just
the
like
open.
out in the open.
It's like, girl,
Oh,
She's
yeah.
put
not
a mask
at all
on.
discreet about it.
Cover your face.
Oh no, she had a mask
Oh.
on, but you could tell
You
it
can
was her.
definitely tell that it's her.
Big ass sunglasses.
And she was just like running in.
Beanie.
She also had those and a hat.
Because what's
She could
really
still tell
funny
it
is
was her.
it does look like she's trying to be discreet, but like failing at it a lot.
But also, she is in a well
Yeah.
lit. She's in a well lit street.
Mhm.
This is not. These aren't the bushes. But like this was both like this was when Block B was still like doing
That was before
great
the
things. This was
AOA
still
to fall apart.
This was around AOA's what's it called? Good
That was
Luck
Good
period.
Luck,
So they
yeah.
were still all together. Like it was a good time for both of them. This was mostly because they only dated for a few months and then obviously broke up because of quote unquote scheduling conflicts.
And I do think
as
because
usual.
they were more like they were older idols too. Like no
They were
one
older idols.
was that opposed
I think
to it.
they had a different. They also have a different fan base at that point.
Yeah.
That was like more okay with this. This was mostly I find ignored. Like
yeah, I think a
people
lot
were
of people
interested in
forget
it.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
but no one was like boycotting Block B because of
No,
this.
But
I
I'll
think
tell you
I
which-
don't think it
no.
affected either of them that much.
But it also did. It was also so short enough that this did not like
Mm-hmm.
coincide with either of their comebacks. Baekhyun and Taeyeon did date for a longer period of
Yeah,
time.
they
Yeah.
did.
So who knows?
And speaking of couples that we will remember all around the fucking world, Jenny and Kai. Oh God, I remember Reddit on that day.
I remember this because
was so
we,
insane.
We were so
This
we
was wild.
I was on a Discord call when this dropped,
Mhm.
and we were flipping
I'm
out.
like,
about
oh my
this.
God, and it's even
It's
crazy.
like,
Oh my
shit.
I
God.
gotta mention though,
Maria, you were there with
yeah, I
me.
know I was.
We were having a time.
I was like, holy shit.
Me and Maria were reacting to this in real
We're
time
like,
on New Year's
But you know what's
Eve
funny,
of
though? You know what's even fu-
2018 to 2019, and it was wild.
I just gotta point out though with
it was
Kai.
the weirdest couple.
Kai is the one of the few people that I know who has dated two idols because he also dated
Kai dated
Crystal
Crystal.
before this, so
Kai dated
that's
Crystal
interesting.
from FX, but like that
Kai
was
did that.
weirdly that also didn't do much.
That's also very forgettable. Like a lot of
That
people.
one was
was
forgettable,
so
but
happened.
this
Kai's,
wasn't.
Kai's relationships are really forgettable.
Yeah,
Honestly,
apparently.
I think this was also forgettable. Like I
I
forget
feel- I
that
feel-
Jenny and
I
Kai
feel like
apparently.
people are gonna
But they
remember
also
because
broke
one
up
of them
at,
was
like
Jenny.
by the end of the month, though. They were
They
a
also
month
did
by the
not.
end of the
They
month.
dated
They
like 3
apparently-
months.
Barely, because they were mainly just in Paris for that one weekend.
Yes,
And then apparently we're still dating and then broke up like a month
that
later.
did not last long
And
at all.
really, there is still the debate of were they ever really dating.
Mhm.
And this is one of those couples where
It was
I'm like,
probably just like
I
a
don't know.
fling. They had
Maybe
an
not.
interest.
Maybe not. Maybe.
maybe they
They might
either
have hooked
maybe
up. There you
maybe
go.
they maybe YG and SM were like, yeah, no, take
Yeah,
a picture together, it's
publicity.
fine. Or maybe they hooked up once in Paris. Who's to say?
We'll
I
never
don't
know.
They did apparently take
never- we
pictures
will
of them
literally
though, at a
never
park,
know.
but in Korea, but who knows?
Because there were also images of her getting in his car, but like,
Because I would be surprised if some of these were staged for the paparazzi.
oh no, I think some of these were and some of them weren't.
Yeah.
I believe that Seolhyun and Zico is such a weird combination. I do not.
And
think that
also
was
with
staged,
like the
though.
amount of like literal pictures they have of Seolhyun
running
running
into
into
his
his
apartment
apartment, I
complex.
think that was
just
probably
can't.
real.
So
I
I
love
really thought she had that big of a brain.
They're the funniest
to put her
girls
on
ever.
dispatch. I'm
I love
sorry.
it. Honestly, good
She
for them.
tried.
I hope that they were very happy together.
And then
These two, I don't know.
And then, of course, I say
Who
probably the
knows?
biggest one of recent years, for sure. None other. Con
Oh,
Daniel and
God.
Jiho from Twice. So many dick jokes about
So
Con
this
Daniel.
happened-
I've never seen so many dick jokes in my life about
So
him.
this happened in 2019. In August. A lot of these happened in August, I've just realized,
the summer,
which
I
is
tell
weird.
you, the summer brings out
The
a lot
summer months,
Damn.
this is when
Everyone's
they
having
all
a summer
decide
fling,
to-
I guess.
everyone.
They have. They dated for a bit. They dated for a few months. They
at
dated
least a
for
year,
like
I feel
think a
like.
year.
It was a while.
because at
that
some
one.
point people forgot they were dating.
I honestly forgot that
I
they
forgot
were
they were
dating, for a
dating
long
until they
time.
broke up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I
I'm
forgot
just
they were
like-
dating until like we saw the news article that they broke up, and I was like, oh yeah, they were
I'm like,
dating. Huh.
They didn't. I'm like, they were still together.
Mhm.
And there were
But,
so
like,
many
yeah,
jokes.
That's another random couple. My favorite thing were the jokes of Kang Daniel asking his agency
Agency,
about
yeah.
what is our statement, and by you, his agency is himself.
Oh,
Yep,
yes.
those are
He is
great.
the CEO of his own company.
And then
What's
it's
our
the whole,
statement?
and then the whole thing
Daniel,
about
what is our
maybe,
statement?
and then the whole thing about his
Daniel
name
will
being
decide
Daniel,
something.
so he got the D. So many dick jokes from Daniel about him having a big dick allegedly.
I don't
know.
I don't care.
But I never
Honestly,
saw
it
so
was-
many dick jokes about an
Honestly,
idol.
these
till
two
then.
these two seem like they got weird energy together. I don't know how.
I
feel.
don't fully understand that one, but I guess good for them.
I don't know when they met, but
And then there
like
was the
I
whole-
hope that they were very
there was
happy.
the whole thing
and then they
too-
again broke up because
Yeah.
of schedule conflicts.
That's really what everyone breaks up for, supposedly. Is
everyone
schedule
breaks up for
conflicts.
schedule conflicts.
Well, and
'Cause
the
I think
interesting
it's a
thing too
nicer.
about these two is that there was the whole thing where she was visiting him in UN Village. I think that was right around the time Baekhyun released his song UN Village off of his mini album. Just gotta say, small connection there. So I think that was a whole thing.
It doesn't. It means nothing.
It means nothing,
It means
probably, but
nothing.
it's just funny to
It is
me.
a place.
It's ironic.
It is just a place.
It's ironic.
Again, before we start another rumor,
It's not a rumor.
Baekhyun didn't know,
And I'm
guys.
pretty
Well,
sure-
Baekhyun
we will
did
make
not know.
another
No, I'm not.
episode
He
on
definitely
K-pop
did not know.
conspiracy
But I just
theories.
find it so funny.
Baekhyun did not know.
I just find it so funny.
Before we
that
end
that's
up
what-
with another K-pop conspiracy.
Oh, and this
theory.
one.
Also, another. Let's just do the other Twice one.
Oh,
Another
God.
Twice dating thing that we brought in here was, you guys remember when Heechul and Momo dated?
That was a thing.
That was
happened in
that was
2020.
so weird.
What the
that
fuck
was
was
so
that?
weird. Momo and Heechul was so weird. It's so weird.
likes younger women.
Can't get
I
over how
guess,
weird it is.
confirmed. Because
I want.
it is so weird.
yeah,
Because I
like,
remember for the
those
longest
two
time people thought he was totally gay.
people. Well, no, people still think
People
that.
still think it, and then apparently he's
yeah.
dating
People
Momo.
still think it, and he was dating Momo, which is fine. I want to just point out that the age difference between Heechul and Momo is 25. What's 25 minus 38?
13?
I thought he was 40. then.
13 years.
Oh yeah.
No, he's 38 now. So
Oh, wow,
they are
she is
13
our
years
age.
apart.
Yeah.
She is
She
our
is.
Can you imagine
Um,
one of us dating someone that old?
dating a 38-year-old? No.
I just can't.
I just want to
physically
point
can't.
that out. Not, again, totally legal.
It is.
You can do what you want. Age is a number, but want to point out, he was 13 years her senior.
They also had a couple of like very bizarre interactions on like Weekly Idol and everything before
did.
that are like that lead up that
questionable
people
now that you look at.
questionable now
you're
that
looking
once
back
you
at.
realize that they dated for a little bit.
Again, I'm not trying to say anything about Heechul. From everything I've ever heard about Heechul is very respectful of female. Like, he's a very nice person from
Oh, yeah.
everything I've heard. Like, at times, things can come across on camera, especially when you're playing things for jokes.
Mhm.
But from anything I've ever heard about him, he is very... And he does maintain a lot of very good relationships with female idols.
This is true.
So that
Yeah.
has to count for something of, like, he is all of... You have all these friends, like, one way or the other. It seems like everything is fine. So I bet you they were very happy. And so the last one we have is that 2PM's Nick Kuhn dated Girl Generation's Tiffany.
Oh God.
That's 2PM and Girl Generation dating in 2014, like peak of their powers.
God.
Like, Jesus.
And you know what's?
This
You know
brings
what?
me back to that CF thing.
Oh
Oh
God.
God, the one at the
Yeah.
bay. What was it?
The one I don't know whatever.
The
water park
one.
one.
Park. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
That was
You know what this
great.
also reminds me of? That one Mama Awards show where, like, I think Tiffany's talking about the awards, and they just keep cutting to Nick Young multiple times.
I know,
They
they
just
keep
keep
cutting
cutting to
back
Nick.
to
They cut him. He's just like, hi.
And Nick Hoon is just like,
He's like,
I
"Oh,
have
hi."
no reaction. Leave me alone.
Yep,
That was also a cute couple.
that's cute.
They seemed
That
happy.
seems
I
like a
don't-
cute one.
Honestly, it's just like looking back at old couples that like broke up. It's just one of those where you're like, what?
Hmm.
Everyone's dated everybody at this point. Everyone seems happy at the time, and there were no hard feelings. It so supposedly seems from, again, we only speak of the information we have.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do a quick
It's called
one before we
Girl
get to the
Group
lazy
Idol
scandal.
turns into Bad Girls Club in a figurative sense. Not really, actually. But Irene.
The bad Irene from Red Velvet had a scandal
I'm kidding. I mean, it's
in October of 2020.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
You
Let's
okay,
Maria? Let's let Maria calm down for a second.
Oh fuck! I'm so sorry. That was a bad analogy.
That was an interesting.
That was
was some
shit.
noises were
Lucas,
made.
you're free to cut this.
It's going to be.
Thank
cut.
God.
I
Anyways,
might keep
continue,
it in
Sammy.
the podcast for fun.
Keep it in the podcast then.
not?
Oh my God, that was a bad
Yeah,
analogy.
Lucas can cut that out.
I'm sorry. Continue, Sammy. Please continue before I say something else stupid.
So, in October of 2020, a stylist posted a post on her Instagram explaining about an idol being aggressive, rude, mean to her. And she never mentioned a single name in that Instagram post,
Mhm.
but from context clues, hashtags, people kind of figured out it was Red Velvet's Irene.
Yes, yes.
And like most things about SM, no real statements were made, and everyone forgot about it, and we all moved on.
And it
And
was
nothing happened.
also when that happened, multiple other people who work in the industry supported the stylist and and made
Oh, yeah.
similar accusations against her. Where it was like, this is not a one-time event. Like this is like a common occurrence here.
Mhm.
But we just
And then again,
SM just
SM
kind of
makes one statement.
we kind of
about,
waited
like,
it out. Essentially, is what SM did.
That's the SM way, man. The SM
You
just
wait
sort of
out the
like
scandals.
makes. You don't really do an apologies. They make one statement acknowledging that they know this is happening.
Mhm.
Wait it out, and then we've all moved on, and nothing really of substance happened.
Because
Apparently she's
Red
not a
Velvet's
bitch
still
anymore.
going.
Still going.
Well, she said she did self-reflection and everything, so hopefully that means she actually learned something from it. But again, like, we'll never know.
Who's to say?
Who's to
Like,
say?
Again, you know, real SM self-reflection means that you never come back.
Yeah, like
Look at
Kanye.
other SM idols who are in current
Let's talk about
self-reflection.
Sungmin, who's self-reflecting from Super Junior for I don't even know how many years now.
Sungmin's been self-reflecting in Super Junior until the cows
Self-reflecting
come home. He'll
on-
never come back.
Having a wife, essentially.
On being married.
Yeah.
Being married and
He's reflecting
apparently
on his
using
marriage,
writing
everybody.
her pet name on fans' cards.
Again, that
I
was
don't
not
know.
a great decision. Should it have cost him his career?
No, that
Should
was
he have done
that.
it?
A lot of that
Probably
was a
not.
dumb.
Mhm.
That was a
That's-
dumb scandal.
That's also, I don't think, something we have on this. Do we have? I don't know.
think
We'll talk.
he might be in. I don't know. I don't think.
lower.
I don't think he specifically we got on here anywhere.
I think we do have idols dating fans, but we'll talk about it.
Mhm.
Next, we have the consistent lazy scandals.
Yes,
that
yes.
a bunch. We only have 3
I'd
examples.
say
but there's
allegedly
always a
lazy
new
because a
lazy
lot of it's kind of like.
allegedly.
Is it actually
Again,
laziness?
it's called the K-pop lazy scandal because people just keep calling these idols lazy. I have 3. We have 3 main examples
Yeah, it'll
here.
essentially happen to at least like one idol. Every group, like, they have a comeback. Someone will point out
Mostly
that someone
female
is not
groups.
having like as much
A good-
of a good time, I guess.
Yeah, these
happens
3
often.
examples are really the ones that I think became situations.
Yeah.
That like people were like on the lookout for, because usually that stays within the fandom of that group where people are like, oh yeah, this person seems to be kind of off this comeback.
Yeah.
Which most people don't end up calling them lazy within the fandom. You just kind of feel like they're kind of off, like they're either not feeling the
They're
concept
just-
or maybe
most
they're
of
just
the time,
having
I think now because the fandoms are so aware of like mental health and how hard they
Yeah.
work, it's more so of like they're just like really exhausted these days.
exactly.
Yeah. Which,
So
yeah.
the main one people talk about is Jennie from Blackpink.
Yes, yes.
So
That stemmed from I think it was a concert
Yes, it
in
was a
Korea.
concert.
And what happened
Yes.
here, and I think this is the one where I think it's probably the most evidence to support that maybe this really was like a lazy problem, was that she seemed to lack energy and just like
During-
really any sort of stage presence and want to be there in a lot of the Blackpink performances at this concert. But then when she was performing her solo song because she had released it at the time, apparently seemed to be back to normal and fine.
At the same
but it was
concert,
apparently
or is it during
at the same concert,
In the same
concert.
concert,
And
okay.
so
This is the same concert.
so the question was like, you're obviously clearly putting effort into your solo performance, but can't be bothered apparently with some of the like Blackpink like group choreographies.
Yeah, and this really sort of happened all throughout that year. Like, really, it was all of, like, 2019 Blackpink era. 2019, 2020. And it's one of those where it's just, like, you can... Everyone was debating about it. This isn't really a scandal. But it was just something that everybody was talking, like, is she really lazy? Is she just always... Then you always have the constant thing of, like, everyone is sick. And I'm like, okay. You can't have the flu for 18 years.
True.
Mhm.
Like, you can just, again, if it's anxiety, it's anxiety. If it's mental health, it's mental health. If they are having a bad day, you can have a bad day.
Who knows?
If no one is sick.
It could have been her just
every
deciding
day.
to reserve her energy
It
for
could have
her
been
solo
her.
song for whatever reason.
Or
Obviously,
it's just the
yeah.
fact that they're tired of performing the same 4 songs.
Yeah,
for the past 4
YG.
years.
Maybe Teddy Park should not be their only producer on
We're not-
music.
Oh boy,
Oh,
I could
God.
go on about
God,
that,
if
but
you
we
told
don't
me
need
Teddy
We don't need to go into that.
We'll
but-
talk about that, but also, Lucas edit this out. But also, you could tell me Teddy's been dead for 4 years, and I'd believe you because he's made the same song 8 times.
Honestly.
Honestly,
If you told me
honestly.
Teddy's been dead for 4 years.
fair.
Lord.
This is a fair point.
But this has happened. Yeah, so this is like the most major lazy scandal because I remember that there are like, you can still find them, but there was this very big compilation on YouTube of someone
yeah.
comparing Jenny from like 2017, 2018 to Jenny in like 2019. And there was a stark contrast.
And you can clearly
that
tell,
video
even without
got
the comparison, that some of the choreography she is just like not trying,
not
like just not
well,
barely
especially if
doing
she's
anything.
in a group choreo.
Yeah.
She's not giving it what the other girls are giving it.
Mhm.
And again, I can understand being somewhat disappointed, especially if you're not getting any statement from the artist, especially if you're paying money for a concert.
Yeah,
To pay that much money, and concert tickets are not cheap, to pay that much money for someone to seem very unenthused to be there
Mhm.
kind of has to suck, especially if you don't have any kind of explanation as to what's going on.
right.
And like no one really made any statements about this. It kind of
It just kinda
again,
faded.
like anything in K-pop, you fade, let it go away, and then she's fine. Another Jenny scandal came and replaced that one.
Mhm.
But there have been other K-pop girls that have been in the same scandal. The 2 main ones I remember were Yeri from Red Velvet, especially during the like Power Up and Bad Boy. The examples people kept putting up were just that she was sort of very out of sync with the other members.
Mhm.
And it was noticeably out of sync,
Mm-hmm.
which is, again, it's one of those where I don't know if it's lazy or if she just wasn't getting the like choreo down as well as the other members or what that was going on. But that was one that very quickly, like, another error happened and she just apparently improved and everyone was very happy for her.
Mhm.
But I do think that there is also just the added thing of just like some people are not as skilled dancers.
I
as your
think
other
that's
members.
that's my
true.
opinion. I think on both on the Yeri one and on the
'Cause
next one with Leah's, I just don't think the two of them are that good at dancing. Like I don't think it's them being
'Cause the
lazy.
other
I
one
just think they
is,
don't or they're not as good as
yeah.
dancing as the rest of the other members.
Yeah, they're not.
Because the other member is Leah from ITZY. Especially during the Wannabe era, people pointed out that she was just not hitting the moves like the other members were. And I'm like, there are people who are less strong of dancers.
I just-
Kayla's
yeah.
choreos are not the easiest.
Maybe for
And,
some
like,
reason that
Leah's-
choreography she just didn't
Some people.
vibe with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Leah's
They
their
weren't getting
main
it down
vocal
as
too,
well.
and I'm like, I just think she's just not as strong of a dancer as everyone else. Like, I don't think she's purposely not trying. I think she is trying, but she's just not as good as the other members in this choreography.
And like, And it just can be like this one dance for some reason it's not sticking as well as, and then the next comeback they'll be fine again.
The wannabe
Both of
choreography
these
seems like it's
scandals
kind
have
of
sort
difficult
come.
too. So
Yeah. So I don't think a lot of these were much more minor than the Jenny one, but I just wanted to point out that it's not just Jenny that gets these accusations. There's other people that do as well, and really the same thing happens. You ignore it and it kind of goes away.
Also, the lazy accusations I see tend to focus on females than males for whatever
They do.
reason.
This
Not
is
quite
true.
sure why,
It's
but
the sexism.
yeah,
It is the sexism.
the sexism
It's
of
the
it all.
sexism.
Just want to point that out there
It's
too.
the sexism of it all. Much like the big problems of like slave contracts and everything, we're not just gonna put a blanket statement over sexism.
oh yeah.
In K-pop.
Yep.
We already did racism. I can't also do sexism.
Yep.
That's a whole
that is
other-
also very much a thing.
You're gonna have
here,
to go
but
into
we don't
Oh,
have
yeah.
time
in
to
Asian
even
society to
go into
through,
that. Yeah.
You have to. It's a whole. That's a whole other separate.
Moving
video.
along.
Anyways,
moving along.
Yep.
the most interesting.
We're gonna talk about a
scandal.
topic that we have. Not necessarily.
I don't know. For me,
I think that this is just, again, I'm just exhausted of talking
Fair
about this
enough.
because we've talked. Me and Kayla have talked about this, I think, in 4 separate episodes on this channel.
Multiple. So many.
If you're new here, Kayla and I did a full month of produce and produce adjacent content.
2 full months.
2 full months.
2 full months plus
of this.
2 extra episodes. So like two
Yes.
and a half.
2.5
really.
months of full produce, and every single episode I think we brought up this. So we're talking about the Produce 101 voting manipulation scandal situation.
Yes, and also
So-
tangentially the idol school scandal, which is not voting
Yes.
manipulation, but got dragged into the entire investigation.
It's all
of
the
it.
same.
The
same
Mnet
can
voting
of worms.
manipulation, really.
Yep.
So, essentially what this is after the airing of Produce X, a month after X1 debuted, an investigation was made into the voting systems that they were using in the finale, and it was found out that the votes are rigged for Produce X. And after that, it prompted them to then go back to previous seasons of Produce to see if there was any rigging in the voting happening there. And it turns out there was, back to season 2 of the show. So every single season of the show involved
Everything is
vote
rigged.
rigging except for season 1.
I mean,
Essentially,
are
what
we
happened
sure?
is that
Do we know for sure season 1 was not vote rigged?
I'm pretty sure that they would have.
I
I'm
believe
pretty sure they would
checked and
have
didn't.
figured it out in the investigation.
Yeah, it didn't
considering
seem
we
like
have
it.
an actual list
That-
of names of people who were affected by it, I think that they would have figured it out if
They
it
did
was in
check
season
the
1.
season 1.
Okay.
And honestly, it's either that they didn't, they did it so well, or I feel like season 1 was also edited very well. All the seasons were edited to get a certain result, but they like extra.
Oh yeah.
Plus the fact that season 1 was such a proof of concept, I don't
I
even
think
that
they
they
would.
thought
I don't
about-
even think that thought came to them at that point, like what they could do to that group to really
Yeah.
rig
vote
it anyway.
Mm.
Plus the fact that I
Yeah.
do think that there are people from that first season that if they wanted to vote rig it, would have been vote rigged in,
Yes.
as opposed to other
Yes.
people.
Yes.
Fair
So
enough,
I
yeah.
do think that season was mostly like, again, there's always the legal manipulation of editing and everything else,
Mhm.
but in terms of illegal manipulation, I think we're good.
Yep. So this is essentially a bunch of Mnet executives and showrunners had a part in that. Not only that, but a lot of higher level executives from a lot of the K-pop companies apparently were accused of sending in bribes to the Mnet showrunners to help their own trainees on the show, and they confirmed that there were executives from Around Us, Starship, Willem, and 8D Creative that all participated in that. So that's fun.
Woo.
That we had also actual K-pop companies involved in that.
Everyone was involved. It's a massive scam.
The thing that makes me the most pissed off about all this, besides like, you know, trainees getting screwed over and having this attached to them, is the fact that it was fraud because you had to pay to vote.
People had
And
to
your
pay.
votes didn't matter.
That's
They
why
took
it
your
was
fucking money.
That is the only reason that this
That
is
it
illegal.
matters
That
that
is
much.
the
Yeah.
only
The only
reason that
reason.
that these people went to prison
Yeah.
is because technically
It's
because
fraud.
it is not illegal. Again, it is I don't know how the illegality of the bribes were, but in terms of the public, the illegal part of this is that there was a contract and everything else that you had to pay to vote in terms of subscriptions and texting and all of that. And 2, they told people that it's that the contract of like, yeah, you have the power, that's why you're voting, that's why you're paying.
And it's
people
like, well,
lost
that's a
money,
lie.
essentially.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's all a
They
lie.
lost money.
That's why
They were
people
ripped off.
actually went to. That's actually why people went to prison. Again, it probably wasn't that much money. Plus the
Right.
fact that if you're paying that much money for an idol survival show,
yeah, you probably have a lot of money.
maybe
but...
look at your priorities or look at your priorities of your life. But that is illegal, and it should be punished as such.
Yep. The sad thing is that a lot of the actual trainees who were on the show when this manipulation was happening, specifically I think in Produce X, a lot of the trainees were also aware that like suspicious rigging was happening on the show, because they'd confirm that some of them did interviews and they would talk about how, you know, I'm not going to make this group because only one trainee from our company can make it in this group and it's going to be this other kid. Like there was a lot of talk about that in the actual contestants in the show.
The other thing with this voting and this rigging is just that you can very clearly tell as time went on with that show that it was being rigged, because they got so blatant with it as it went on. They didn't care anymore. That's why Produce X was the shitstorm that it was because like they finally were so almost cocky with it that they didn't even care to like cover it up.
Yep.
Because if you looked at the voting numbers, they were so perfectly like separated that you're like, what? How did this happen? That's not statistically possible.
Because I watched a lot of the seasons of Korean produced specifically live when they aired, and the groups continued to, like the final groups, the winning groups, made increasingly less sense the longer
as it went
the
on.
Seasons went on. Because to just go over some of the idols who were affected, especially the ones who were rigged out of the group right at finales, Backhoe from New West got rigged out of 101. I don't know why specifically that needed to happen and who got put in.
I think it might have been that they only wanted one member of New West.
Yeah.
That might be that could have either been a Pledis thing or
might have
was
been a Pledis thing.
I don't know if that was a Pledis thing or that was they didn't want two members of one group to like.
So then they could still push the group to still do stuff.
That's why I'm thinking it might have been a
thing.
Pledis
It could have
thing.
been an Mnet thing.
Yeah, because if it was a Pledis thing, I can see it being a Pledis thing because Pledis wanted like New SW to exist while another member was busy doing like 101.
Or like double dipping essentially.
Or they were like, we already have one member of New S in this group. We can just get another member from a different company, which will expand, because again, you're only gonna get the newest fans are already gonna be in because of Minhyun.
Right.
I want to know why we picked Minhyun over Baekho is the question.
I'm also JR not even being there,
and also
is,
JR
like, wild.
It's wild to me.
Yeah.
But then again, who knows about how the back end manipulation was happening anyway with the votes? Because
with
all
like the bribing and everything.
This isn't even
too.
Between the bribing and also the fact that we realized that every single vote was manipulated.
Oh yeah,
it was manipulated.
Everything
it's not the finale vote that was manipulated.
Because a couple of kids from
were.
other groups got rigged out in like the first couple of rounds too. So like the rigging wasn't even happening right at the end. It was happening in every round of the show too.
So you really don't know if it's just if trainees that had been kicked off were allowed to stay, would they have gained the popularity to be in the group? These group, you can say all these people were rigged out, and in a way, yes, they were very blatantly hurt by this, but all the nameless kids that got out in like round 2, round 3 that like possibly could have made the group, but who knows? Plus the fact of Kayla and I have watched every season of this show. If you watch the seasons that are not rigged, because you can't rig the China seasons and you can't rig the Japan seasons because the Japan seasons were after the rigging thing was already happening, and the China seasons, I don't know if you want to play with the Chinese government.
Probably not.
Genuinely.
If you're gonna
not for that purpose. I don't know if you want to play.
Yeah, you don't want to play.
So you see how the voting works on that, and it's very consistent. The lower tiers of the group, like your 10th place, your 9th place, your 8th place, that changes a lot. But your 1, your 2, your 3, that's like your stable of like 3 or 4 boys. And unless something drastic happens, usually it's that stable of 3 or 4 boys that you're boys or girls that you're looking at, and that just keeps changing order. Because you look at like your idol producer, we knew exactly who was going to be in that group.
Oh yeah,
we knew exactly who we're gonna like. The seasons you watch, you can tell who's gonna be in the
group. So I found another article on it. Apparently, there was also rigging in season 1. It was just in the first round, though it wasn't right at the end. So there was 2 trainees who got affected in season 1, but like it was early in the show.
And I think that might have been not because they were planning on rigging. I think I saw
That was
articles
it was
they
something
were planning on rigging the entire
yeah,
show.
I think there was
they
probably
were just planning
something
on
else involved with
specific
that.
those two trainees.
In 48, there was 2 members who got rigged out right at the end of the finale, and that's Choan, who is now in Lightsum, and Kaun, who was in After School.
So many people were pissed about that, I remember.
I have theories as to why, and it honestly shouldn't be that surprising, but the 2 of them do not fit into IZ*ONE's concept at all.
They don't.
Both of them are way too mature for it, and I'm pretty sure they rigged them out to put in 2 cuter members, and that is all that happened there.
And which is interesting though with the produce. What's her name? Not Kaun, the other one, Choan. Lightsum's concept, if anything, is different than what I thought Choan.
Lightsum's concept is now IZ*ONE, but also they don't.
Yeah,
but also that's a spite situation, and also I don't think she fits the Lightsum concept.
She really
so it's
doesn't.
Kind of ironic.
She is not being put in that.
So it's kind of ironic, honestly, because she ended up doing a light.
Now we have the big one that had a lot of people.
X had
wild
3 in the finale, but also a bunch more before the finale. So the ones who had rigged out at the finale was Jungmoo, who's now in Gravity, Jinhyuk from Attention, and then Kim Donghyun, who I don't know if he's doing anything recently. But
I don't think
it was a lot. I didn't follow Produce X enough, really. And we didn't also get enough of X1 to really understand why this happened. I think the Gravity kid got rigged out because they already had 2 Starship trainees and they did not want 3. And I think that's the same thing that happened with the Uptension kid as well, because they already had 1 member of Uptension and didn't want both of them. I don't know about the other kid, but I think that was probably the logic for the 2 of them.
I can see that.
But anyway, that was really bad on them. That's why we don't have Produce anymore, but we essentially have Produce still with Girls Planet. Because it is Produce in a wig. It took them, I think, 2 to 3 years to let's take a break from voting-based survival shows with new trainees, and then they were right back at it again. So lovely for them.
Woo.
We have our last category, which is a very fun.
You want to do the after school thing really quick?
Idol School. Idol School was
sorry.
It was not as rigging intensive. The only thing that the investigation one of the biggest things the investigation sort of brought up was that a lot of the girls on the show were very poorly treated during the filming of the show. Apparently they were given very bad living conditions, and we're talking about not enough clothes or food during the filming of that show.
Which is really
so it was
up,
basic
honestly.
Human needs were pretty bad.
So now we're on to the K-pop babies.
So many babies.
That's this is our last topic.
The fun one, I think. I think it's fun.
So
the fun
many
one,
babies.
the best one, babies.
Yep.
So we're also just going to talk about the major K-pop babies.
There's not a lot of babies to begin with.
There aren't a lot of K-pop babies for idols who are still somewhat active.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I think the most major newest baby is Chen's baby, Chen of EXO. In January of 2020, he announced that he was getting married and also having a baby. Yay.
Hooray.
So then in April, he had his first baby. In October, he enlists. And then in November, he announced that he's having a second baby.
Yep.
So the man is busy.
Clearly.
Very busy.
In more ways than one.
Hey. But also, when he returns, that baby will be 2.
Yes.
Do we know if he's living at home or not, though?
So here's the thing, is because he's
not.
Because I think they would have specified if he was living from home, because when Minhwan enlisted, who we're going to talk about next, every news article about Minhwan said that he was enlisting under a special program for fathers of small children, essentially.
Toddler children who are under, I believe, the age of 3.
Yeah.
If you have a child under the age of 3, you can be with your family. Special program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that you can go home at night.
And Minhwan is definitely was under that. I think he's out of the military now, but I think he was definitely under that when right after he had his twins. So
twins. Yeah.
I think they definitely would have specified it for Chen if it was happening, because I've never seen a single article saying that he is also doing that, because I don't understand why they would leave that out if he was.
Unless it's something that is being kept a secret, but I also feel like that wouldn't, I don't know if that's, Because I feel like that would also be public record.
But granted, I think
because
his
it is
spouse,
military-based.
His spouse, though, is not like a. I think
she's not a non-celebrity.
Yeah, so that could
but
be
he
why.
himself is far. But also, he himself is far more famous than the rest of these people combined.
That's true.
So
this is true.
Like, I think he has, if he wanted to, I feel like SM could pull some strings to get him to be with his family.
Yeah.
If that is just not what's happening, but who knows?
Yes.
So then we do have our next baby.
Yeah, so our next baby is from Minhwan and Yeolhee, and I do think that them and their children specifically have been a really, really big important part of normalizing both idol marriages and like idols
Idol
having
babies.
children and families.
Oh yeah, they're great.
So they started dating in late 2017, and then essentially very soon, like in early 2018, got engaged. And then in May of the same year, 2018, announced that they were expecting a child, and then they would have their first child in October of that year. And then soon after, they actually joined the cast of the show Mr. House Husband. And for people who are unfamiliar with that show, it's essentially just celebrity families who go on that, and then they show them and their lives, and mostly them like doing household chores or like taking care of their children and stuff like that. So they really went through a lot of like early days of like raising their kid and their just relationship in general.
Their kid is like adorable too.
Super
their
cute.
Kid is
their kid
so
is
cute.
super
I
cute.
love that.
And I think the fact that they
love
were
that.
so willing to be open with their relationship and
yeah.
the struggles they were having and all of the stuff that they were learning.
And I also think that it helps that neither of them were like the most massively popular. Like
No.
Minhwan is the drummer of FT Island. Like he is not out here being
And then
the front man of anything.
Yeolhee is a former
Yeolhee is
member
more
of
famous
Laboom.
by being having a kid with Minhwan and.
I think the two of them
Ever
are
and Laboom.
the two of them are definitely more famous as a couple and because of their family
they-
than they
either of them
ever
were.
were as an idol.
I mean, again, FT Island probably more famous, but also people
Minhwan
don't
is
know
the
the name
drummer.
of the drummer
Yeah.
of FT Island.
They know
He's
the
drummer.
lead
The back end
singer.
is the
That's what
drummer.
they know. They know the
They
lead
know
singer.
Honky.
Yeah, they know Honky.
Yeah.
Honky is FT Island right now.
Mhm.
Love him.
But then
yeah.
after that, in August of that same year, they announced that they were expecting a second child, and then pretty soon after found out that it was going to be twins.
Yay,
So
twins.
the twins were then born in
That's a lot
February
of
of
kids under
2020.
3.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
yeah.
a lot of
God.
kids under. Oh no, he
Especially
fully.
because Minhwan had to enlist like a couple weeks after
February.
the twins were born. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. He immediately had to leave because it was one of those where he is at like the age where he has to enlist.
Oh yeah, he
He
was
put it off as far as he could,
definitely.
and now just has. At least he's allowed to commute.
Oh,
At least
yeah.
his kids will they're still around dad.
They did leave. When Minhwan had to enlist, they also left the cast of Mr. House Husband. But I'm pretty sure Yeolhee is pretty active on like YouTube and Instagram and everything.
Oh, yeah,
and
no,
she's
they
very
also-
No,
open
she-
with, like,
she's still
sharing
very
her family
active,
life and
yeah.
everything. Yeah.
They're very open with that. There's also still continuously on shows. They'll still appear sometimes where they just give you updates about the twins, and those twins are also
Very
Adorable.
cute. They're so
too.
cute.
Good genes in
So
the family. Good genes in the family.
Yeah.
Very cute, very sweet kids. I love them. I adore them.
And then
So
it's
then
like I
we
do think
have-
like they were definitely one of the biggest parts in helping to because
I mean,
with
now
all of
I
these
think
other
it just sort of desensitizes
yeah,
you.
because they
No
were
one
the
is, like,
first
running.
one. Chen had his baby announcement after them, but because they were really the first ones out there, and then they were
Mhm.
so open about everything, is that I think it really helped with the reactions to every idol after them who announced that they were, getting married or having a child.
Yeah, I think it helps to like desensitize the community to this. I think that like much like dating, then marriage and because again, I think that first gen there were so few idols and like so many of them are like just stopped being in the industry now.
Mhm.
That like now it's like these second gen idols, they're getting on in years, guys.
Yeah.
They're gonna all start getting like a lot of them are probably already married and like we just again, who knows how many secret families are in this industry?
Probably
but
a lot.
Probably
But,
more than we think, for sure.
With this and like these third gen idols, the second and third gen idols, like they're getting on. They're in their 20s. They're going into their 30s.
Some of
like,
them
they're
are
gonna start
closing
getting
in on
married
40.
and having.
Yeah, and a
some
lot of
are
them, you
closing in
know,
on 40.
biological clock's ticking. If they want to have a family, they're gonna probably try to do that.
I mean,
at some point.
not so much with the. I mean, the thing is with the women, like they all mostly between the 7 years and anything, they're all out of the industry before that they really could think about.
True,
trying to
but
have a
for
family.
certain,
And these guys can have children into their 90s.
they could,
so
but
who cares?
also it's much easier to be a younger parent than an older parent because of energy and whatnot.
Who's to say?
From what I've been
Who's
told,
to
from what
say?
I've been told by relatives.
None of us have kids. I want to
True.
point that out. None of us
True.
have children. We are talking out of our ass.
A lot of the second gen idols specifically also left the industry to start a family
to have
as
children.
well.
Yeah. And then we have our lovely boy Bobby,
Mm-hmm.
who announced in October. In
It was
August.
sooner, yeah.
In August of 2020, that he was engaged to a non-celebrity
Mhm.
and having a baby. Yay!
Yay.
And then in September, that baby was born, and it is a boy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yay for Bobby!
And what's
Yeah.
also
He's getting married.
it's very cute. He is getting married and has a child now. He is
Yeah, I'm so happy
also
for him.
still active in Icon because Icon has had a
Still.
couple of fan meetings recently that he has attended,
And he
So,
has been there.
Yeah, good for
So
him.
he is still going to continue to be an icon. Minhwan again also was involved in the
Oh yeah, Minhwan also
FT
still
Island
in
comeback.
FT Island for sure.
Yulhee not in Laboom
I think
anymore.
Laboom. She left Laboom before
Yeah,
having
before
the child
she was
anyway.
to have a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she
And
might have
so-
gotten pregnant while still in Laboom, but then
I
obviously
think yeah,
had
then
to
left
leave.
when
Yeah,
the
I think
baby
that's
was
why
getting
she
born,
left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is how it do
Alright.
be.
That's how it be.
Yeah.
So the next
So
one,
our second to last couple.
yeah. So we have Taeyang and Minhyorin. Minhyorin is an actress. The two of them have been publicly dating for a really, really long time.
Oh,
They
yeah.
met in 2014 on the set of one of Taeyang's music video and have been dating essentially since then. They were also married.
They had a very long, because most of these idol relationships seem like we only find out they're dating right before they get married.
Yeah.
We've
Oh,
known
no.
that they were dating.
were dating for a long
Yeah, they
time.
were.
Publicly.
Very public. That's like one of the most like just well-known public relationships in K-pop is the two of them.
It's one of those where they were together for so long you forgot they
forget.
were together.
Yeah, but they got married in 2018. And then this year,
He left for military service.
he left military service, and then
A lot of that goes
Yep.
down there.
and then this year in December 2021 announced that they were expecting a baby.
I think that one's also a boy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yay. Baby.
It's so
Yeah, it's
funny to me
very
that this
cute.
is the most like newsworthy thing from Taeyeon of everything in Big Bang. He's the one
Taeyang
that's
is
come
a
out with
good-
the
Taeyang
cleanest.
hasn't done much.
He has
Taeyang's
been
a
the
good
cleanest.
Christian
Big
boy.
Bang.
Because it's so different from his image for a long time as like an artist. I feel like
His image was always, hey, I'm the Christian. I'm the
Taeyang
good
is a
Christian
No, I
good
feel like they
Christian
kinda- I
boy.
feel like they gave
In
him.
Big Bang?
I feel that, but also like in his music,
Compared to
they
the
definitely
members
gave
of
him-
Big Bang?
Who
Other
several
members
of
of
which
Big
had
Bang.
drug
I always-
scandals, and one of
No,
them
I felt
is
like they
in
tried to
prison.
give Taeyeon like a hot kind of slightly bad boy
No,
image.
Taeyang was always the good Christian
Yeah.
boy. He was always the good Christian boy.
like the one.
At least how I always perceived him.
Maybe compared to the other
image was
members,
all
yes, but I
bullshit.
also felt like there
It's
was a little
funny
bit
that
of
this
edge
is
to him.
it is
Good
very
Christian
funny
boy.
looking at it on retrospective that this is where Taeyang is on the Scandal Iceberg and where all of the other members of his group fall on the
God.
Scandal Iceberg.
God.
Well,
It's
again, we'll
insane.
talk about one of them extensively next
We'll
month.
talk.
Yeah.
I
If you-
think all members of Big Bang are here, so we got 3 of them
Oh,
now,
Lord.
and then we're gonna get the other 2. So
Woohoo!
Woohoo indeed,
Mhm.
because one of them in particular sure did cause a lot of
We'll get
problems.
there.
Yeah.
We'll get there next week.
Yeah.
One more man.
Anyways,
yeah,
one
we got
more.
one more man's. So we have this is the most recent K-pop baby that we know of, and this is Chan Sung of 2PM. He was dating like a non-celebrity for a very long time.
which we've known about.
And he recently announced in December 2021 that they are expecting a baby, so they're getting married.
Yay! Marriage.
Mhm.
I always find that a lot of what pushes these idols to actually finally get
the
married, even
baby.
if they've been together for years, except for Taeyang, who apparently is just
Taeyang is good Christian.
He's a
boy.
good Christian boy. He got
boy.
married and
It's
then
a
had a
marriage.
kid. waited till marriage, obviously,
Mhm.
is to get pregnant.
Yeah.
Which again, if they've been together for a very long time and they all seem happy with their people,
Yeah.
yay!
And those are the
Marriage.
K-pop
And
babies.
babies. Those are the K-pop babies.
And that
Will any of them be idols in 10 years? No.
Probably not.
These people will never let their children also be
I
idols.
don't think
not.
so. They will.
I
Probably
don't think
not.
that's
I'm
where
pretty
they
sure
want it.
There will never be a
Taeyeon,
There will never be a second generation K-pop baby.
Taeyeon for sure has. I think she has said like
No.
straight up like, no, I'm not letting my kid do this. No.
He's not doing that. Bobby's probably not going to let him be an idol. Chen probably. I don't think any of these kids are going to be idols.
I don't think that it's a necessarily
I don't
an
think that will
industry
ever
they're gonna
happen.
recommend to their children for sure.
No. Will that be their rebellious stage? Hey, I'm going to be a trainee.
Mhm.
And they'll be like, no, damn it, no.
Yeah.
They're like, no, I'm gonna sign to this K-pop company without your permission. Just imagining like Taeyeon.
And then they're gonna be like,
kid
we're
going
gonna
to like
force
SM
you to go to
Entertainment.
SM Entertainment. That's
And
hilarious.
it's like, we're gonna force you to go to acting school instead.
Mhm.
You can't be an idol.
No, you're going to be a doctor, damn it.
You're gonna work an office job like a normal person.
Not do what I did.
You'll be just as miserable, don't worry. But you'll be fed.
All right.
So that wraps
So
up
that
tier
was-
1 of the Scandal Iceberg.
That was very fun.
It was.
This
we
is
got
probably gonna
7
be the
more
most
of these coming for you.
Fun, I'd
7
say.
more.
Mhm.
The topics of this one is more
This-
light, I would say, overall, compared to everything else.
Not necessarily.
Well, for the next
We
one,
did start
yeah.
with racism.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Oh, the next
I
one's
think
gonna suck.
we're gonna hit a low in terms of like how dark we're getting, and generally with the tier 2, and then it's gonna be more varied since then, because some of the lesser known ones are kind of just like stupid and fun. Some of them are more
so
important.
for people
but-
that are just listening, our next tier is just covering Burning Sun and everything surrounding Burning
because
Sun.
there's so much to Burning Sun, and it involves so many people that
Because we'll be here for
there's-
2 hours just talking about
We
Burning
really gotta
on-
break it
just
down
on
for
the
you.
K-pop subreddit alone, there's like at least 30 some odd mega threads on Burning Sun,
Oh
which
yeah.
is insane.
There's a lot
So
there.
we're
I
gonna
never
go
saw
through.
so many
We're
fan
gonna go
threads on
through that, and we're gonna break it down with. And honestly, I think it'll be good because we're gonna break it down with like a good 2-3 years of a retrospective, if you will.
Mhm.
We're gonna look back on Burning Sun and not have an in the moment reaction.
Yes,
so
yes.
God.
that'll be fun
Mhm.
in a way.
It's time for the.
I don't know
the
what else
deep
to
dive
describe
into
it
I
as.
think,
Burning
I think
Sun.
it's time for someone to do it. I don't know how many people have really gone
I
in
think.
depth,
I mean,
but-
there's a void in the ether for someone to break down Burning Sun 5 years
And
later.
Exactly.
Here we are.
It hasn't
Here
been
we
5
are.
years.
We're here
It's
to
been
do it.
like
It's like
3
3 or
years.
4 years, maybe at this point.
Mhm.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Either
But
way.
yes, we'll be back next month with Burning Sun. It takes up an entire tier of this iceberg.
We'll be back next week with a lighter episode.
Very,
Don't worry about
very
that.
much a lighter episode. You will 1 week of every month will be taken up with the Scandal Iceberg until August. So heads up
Whoa.
on that. Hooray. But if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any of the other podcasting platforms, we also have a YouTube channel where we post all of our episodes. And special to these episodes in particular, Lucas is actually making like a fun sort of like video essay version of each of these. It'll be like a shorter edited down version, but will contain a lot of articles and like relevant videos to the stuff we're talking about. So you also get that as a bonus just video every month along with the Scandal Icebergs. And if you're listening to us on YouTube and are seeing us from there, we are also available on all of the major podcasting platforms. And we also have a Instagram and a Twitter, which are linked in the description of every episode.
Neither of which we use.
Don't use either of them at all. I don't think I've used the Twitter in months now, but
Hey,
they
We're
are
gonna
still
start that
there.
up again.
I make one promise.
Mhm.
I make one promise. Because I cried about this today. Funnily enough, this will give you an idea of when we recorded this. I watched Bad Buddy episode 11 today and cried for 5 minutes. So if they don't end up with a happy ending, I will rant on Twitter.
Oh my
Fuck
God.
it. I'll make that promise. If there's not a happy ending, we're starting a tweet thread.
Oh my god.
And GMMTV will be hearing from my lawyers
Oh jeez.
if they're not happy by the end of this, okay?
Mhm.
I'll make that promise.
Yes.
I'll revive the Twitter to
Oh
rant.
my god.
Because we really we don't use either of those, but they're there if you want to follow them. So If you want to see
wanna
Sammy's Twitter, see if Sammi goes on a Twitter rant, go ahead.
Maybe I will. This will be weeks out of date. By
It'll
the time
be
this comes
incredibly
out.
out of date, but it's fine.
But like, you can go back. If I Twitter ranted, they did end up with a happy ending.
Yes.
If it's fine, it's fine. They better end up with a happy ending, or I will cry more.
Oh, boy.
I already cried today.
Yes.
I'm very invested in those two.
All right. We will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.